What if I told you that a single image, carved into stone thousands of years ago, could reappear centuries later on another continent, carrying the very same meaning? It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, but this is the reality of cultural symbols, visual ideas so potent, so perfectly designed, that they travel across oceans and epochs without losing their power. These are not just decorative marks or forgotten signs. They are living artifacts, silent witnesses to the deepest questions humans have always asked about life, death, love, and what lies beyond. And the most incredible part, you probably pass by these symbols every single day without ever realizing the ancient stories they carry. Today, we're setting out on a journey to explore 45 of these extraordinary symbols, icons that have transcended time and geography to speak a universal language. We'll encounter the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, an image found in Egyptian tombs, Norse legends, and alchemical texts, always whispering the same truth about eternity and cycles. We'll feel the emotional pull of the heart shape, a form that has come to represent love in nearly every culture on Earth, despite its abstract origins. Each symbol is a key to understanding not just ancient civilizations, but something fundamental about ourselves. They are fragments of a shared human consciousness, a visual vocabulary that connects the pharaohs of Egypt to the programmers of Silicon Valley. This is more than a history lesson. It's a detective story, a global treasure hunt for meaning. Together, we'll decode the hidden messages behind these enduring emblems, uncover why they resonate so deeply within us, and discover how they continue to influence art, spirituality, and even branding in our modern world. You'll never look at a logo, a piece of jewelry, or even an emoji the same way again. So settle in, open your mind, and allow yourself to wonder what unspoken truths have been hiding in plain sight all this time. The story of these symbols is, in many ways, the story of us. One of the most captivating and ancient symbols we encounter on this journey is the Ouroboros, the image of a serpent or dragon consuming its own tail. This powerful emblem is far more than a simple circular drawing. It is a profound philosophical statement etched into the consciousness of countless civilizations. The earliest known depiction appears in the enigmatic funerary texts of ancient Egypt, within the tomb of Tutankhamun, where it was associated with the sun god and the cyclical journey of the sun across the sky, dying each evening only to be reborn at dawn. But the symbol did not remain confined to the Nile Valley. It slithered its way into the philosophies of ancient Greece, where philosophers like Plato described the universe as a self-consuming, perfectly round being, the ultimate symbol of a reality that is both eternal and complete in itself. The name itself, Ouroboros, comes from the Greek words for tail and eating, yet its meaning transcends language. In Norse mythology, the immense world serpent Jormungandr is a grand, cosmic Ouroboros, encircling the entire realm of Midgard and holding the world together with its own body, a physical manifestation of the cycle that binds all existence. This idea of a self-sustaining loop resonated deeply with the alchemists of the medieval and Renaissance periods. For them, the Ouroboros was the ultimate symbol of the magnum opus, the great work of alchemy. It represented the concept of one is all, the belief that everything needed for transformation and creation was contained within a single, unified whole. It was the visual key to the philosopher's stone, a process where base materials could be broken down and reborn into their perfected, golden state, a perfect metaphor for the cycle of death and rebirth. This interpretation found a new, powerful voice in the 20th century through the work of Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. Jung saw the ouroboros as a primary archetype of the human unconscious, a symbol of the individuation process, the journey toward psychological wholeness and self-realization. In this light, the serpent eating its tail represents the integration of our conscious and unconscious minds, the act of confronting and assimilating our own shadow selves to become a complete, unified individual. It is the ultimate symbol of self-reference and introspection, a never-ending process of understanding oneself. The sheer geometric perfection of the circle it forms speaks to a universal human yearning for order, completeness, and a reality that is both endless and self-contained. From the tombs of pharaohs to the notebooks of psychoanalysts, the ouroboros remains a timeless reminder that every ending is merely a new beginning in disguise. While the ouroboros represents the eternal cycle, another symbol from the sands of Egypt offers a more direct promise, the gift of life itself. The Ankh, with its elegant loop perched atop a simple T-cross, is instantly recognizable as the ancient Egyptian symbol for life, but its true meaning runs far deeper than a single word can convey. Often referred to as the key of the Nile or the key of life, this was no passive image. It was considered a potent, active force. One of the most common sights in Egyptian art is a god or pharaoh holding an ankh to the nose of a mortal, a gesture symbolizing the giving of the breath of life, the very essence of a soul. It was not merely a representation of life on earth, but a key to the afterlife, an essential emblem for safe passage through the underworld and into the eternal fields of paradise. The Ankh's unique shape has sparked much debate among Egyptologists, with several compelling theories about its origin. Some propose it represents a sandal strap, with the loop going around the ankle, grounding the symbol to the earth and the practical journey of life. Others see it as a stylized mirror, an object associated with beauty, truth, and the soul's reflection. The most widely accepted theory, however, connects it to the Nile itself, the lifeblood of Egypt. The loop could symbolize the Nile Delta, the fertile, life-giving region where the river fans out to meet the Mediterranean Sea, while the vertical and horizontal bars represent the intertwining paths of the river and the canals that sustained the civilization. This connection to water and vitality reinforces its role as a symbol of generative power. This power was not just for the gods. Amulets in the shape of the Ankh were incredibly popular among everyday Egyptians, who were buried with them to ensure resurrection and eternal life. It was carved into temple walls and held in the hands of deities like Isis and Osiris, gods intimately connected with magic, resurrection, and the afterlife. The Ankh was a guarantee, a divine tool that unlocked the door between death and rebirth. Its potency was such that the early Coptic Christians of Egypt adopted a very similar form, the crux ansata, or cross with a handle, seamlessly blending this ancient pagan symbol of life with their new Christian faith, demonstrating its incredible cultural staying power. That power resonates loudly today. The Ankh has been enthusiastically adopted by modern spiritual movements, from neo-paganism and witchcraft to New Age philosophy, where it is worn and used as a symbol of eternal spirit, protection, and a connection to ancient wisdom. Its journey into popular culture has been just as remarkable, appearing in comic books, video games, and films as a shorthand for esoteric knowledge, ancient curses, and mystical energy. Its appeal is universal because it speaks to the most fundamental human desire, the hope that life, in some form, continues. The Ankh transcends its Egyptian origins because it is not a relic of a dead religion, but a timeless key, a key that continues to unlock our collective fascination with the mysteries of existence and what may lie beyond. If the Arroboros and the Ankh represent the cycles of eternity and the key to life, then the next symbol on our journey offers a map for navigating all of existence. Emerging from ancient Chinese philosophy, the Yin-Yang is perhaps the most elegant and instantly recognizable representation of balance ever conceived. At first glance, it appears beautifully simple, a circle divided into two swirling teardrops, one black and one white, each containing a small dot of its opposite. But this simplicity is a masterful illusion, for the symbol contains an entire worldview, a profound understanding that the universe is not a collection of separate things, but a dynamic dance of interdependent opposites. This concept is the very heart of Taoist philosophy, which teaches that the Tao, or the Way, is the ultimate reality underlying all of nature, a flowing, ever-changing process. Yin and Yang are the two essential complementary energies that make up this process. Yin is often described as the receptive, feminine, dark, and passive force associated with the moon, the earth, and cold. Yang is its counterpart, the active, masculine, light, and assertive force connected to the sun, the sky, and heat. Crucially, these are not opposing sides in a battle for dominance. They are partners in a constant, harmonious exchange. You cannot have day without night, nor growth without decay. The small dots within each half drive this point home perfectly. There is always a seed of one within the other, meaning nothing is ever purely yin or purely yang. A fire, the ultimate yang element, contains a yin core of ash. The darkest night contains the potential for the coming dawn. This philosophy is not some abstract theory. It is a practical guide to living that has shaped Chinese culture for millennia. Traditional Chinese medicine is built entirely upon this principle, diagnosing illness as an imbalance of yin and yang within the body, and seeking to restore harmony through acupuncture, herbs, and diet. The martial art of Tai Chi is a physical manifestation of this idea, a moving meditation where softness yields to overcome hardness, and fluid, circular movements express the continuous flow between these two energies. Even the art of Feng Shui is an application of these principles, arranging living spaces to create a balanced and harmonious flow of energy, or Kai. In our modern, often polarized world, the wisdom of the yin-yang feels more relevant than ever. It has been adopted by Western psychology to describe the integration of the conscious and unconscious mind, and by designers for its aesthetic perfection and symbolic depth. It teaches us a vital lesson, that wholeness does not come from choosing a side, but from embracing the whole. It encourages us to see the value in stillness as well as action, in intuition as well as logic, and to understand that our greatest challenges often contain the seeds of our greatest opportunities. The yin-yang is more than a symbol. It is an invitation to find equilibrium, to flow with the changes of life, and to recognize the beautiful, necessary tension that makes our world complete. Yet another symbol that draws its profound meaning from the natural world is the lotus flower, an emblem of breathtaking beauty born from the most unlikely of places. Unlike other plants that root in clean soil, the lotus seed settles deep into the mud and muck at the bottom of ponds and rivers. From there, it begins a relentless journey upward, pushing through the murky, dark water until it finally breaks the surface and unfolds its pristine petals to the sun. It is this very life cycle that has captivated the human imagination for millennia, making the lotus a near-universal symbol for the ability to achieve purity, enlightenment, and rebirth despite emerging from impurity and adversity. This powerful metaphor is central to several of the world's major spiritual traditions. In Hinduism, the lotus is intimately associated with divine beauty and purity. Deities like Vishnu, the preserver, and Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth and fortune, are often depicted standing or seated upon a pink lotus blossom, symbolizing their transcendental nature untouched by the chaos of the material world, just as the lotus remains unstained by the mud from which it grows. The flower also represents the crown chakra, the highest energy center in the human body, which when opened, is said to bring spiritual enlightenment and a connection to universal consciousness. It is the ultimate symbol of rising above our base instincts to realize our divine potential. Buddhism adopted and expanded upon this symbolism. The Buddha is frequently shown seated in the lotus position, and many statues feature him atop a lotus throne. Here, the flower represents the entire path to spiritual awakening. The mud is the suffering and attachment of samsara, the cycle of rebirth. The stem is the arduous path of practice, stretching through the water of experience. And the flawless bloom above the surface is the attainment of nirvana, a state of perfect peace and wisdom, liberated from all defilements. Different colored lotuses even carry specific meanings. The blue lotus, for instance, symbolizes the victory of the spirit over the senses, representing intelligence and knowledge. Fascinatingly, this symbolism is not confined to the East. Ancient Egyptians held the blue lotus, or Nymphea caerulea, in equally high esteem. They observed its unique habit of retracting beneath the water at night and re-emerging with the sunrise, which led them to associate it with the sun god Ra and the concept of rebirth and regeneration each day. The lotus was a central motif in Egyptian art and architecture, carved into temple columns and featured in hieroglyphs. It was believed to have medicinal and hallucinogenic properties and was used in rituals to induce a state of heightened awareness, connecting the devotee to the divine. This cross-cultural reverence is no coincidence. It points to a shared human understanding that true strength and beauty are forged in challenge. The lotus does not grow in a pristine greenhouse. Its magnificence is defined by its struggle through the mud. This resonates deeply with our own life experiences. We all face our own periods of darkness and difficulty, our own metaphorical mud. The lotus teaches us that these are not obstacles to our growth, but the very foundation of it. It is a timeless emblem of hope, assuring us that it is possible to rise above our circumstances, to transform pain into wisdom, and to bloom into our fullest, most beautiful selves, no matter how murky our beginnings may seem. Yet perhaps no symbol in human history carries a heavier or more complicated burden than the next one on our journey, a shape so ancient and once so universally beloved that its tragic modern corruption stands as a profound warning. The swastika, a word derived from the Sanskrit svastika meaning conducive to well-being, is a cross with its arms bent at 90 degrees, a design that spins with dynamic energy. For over 3,000 years before the 20th century, this was not a mark of hatred, but one of the most widespread and auspicious symbols across the globe. It represented the sun's journey across the sky, the cycle of the seasons, and the eternal wheel of life. To ancient Hindus, it was a sacred symbol of the god Ganesha, the remover of obstacles and of good luck. It was etched into temple walls and painted on doorways to invite prosperity and divine protection into the home. This positive meaning extended far beyond the Indian subcontinent. In Buddhism, the swastika is often seen imprinted on the heart or the palms of statues of the Buddha, symbolizing the eternal turning of the wheel of Dharma and the Buddha's enlightened mind. It is used to mark the beginning of sacred texts. In Jainism, it represents the 4 possible states of rebirth and is a key symbol for the 7th of their 24 spiritual teachers. Across the Pacific, numerous Native American tribes, including the Navajo, Hopi, and Apache, have used the swastika in their art and rituals for centuries. For the Navajo, it was known as the whirling log, a symbol of healing, protection, and the sacred story of a man's journey down a river in a log canoe to acquire wisdom from the spirits. It appears on ancient pottery, woven into blankets and painted in ceremonial sand paintings. The symbol's geometric appeal and positive connotations were even catching on in the West before its horrific appropriation. American companies like Coca-Cola used it on promotional items for good luck. It was a popular good luck charm for pilots and military units during World War I. The Boy Scouts incorporated it into a medal, and it was used by various athletic teams. This widespread usage makes its sudden and violent inversion all the more shocking. In the 1920s, the Nazi Party in Germany adopted the hooked cross, or Hakenkreuz, as its emblem, deliberately twisting an ancient symbol of well-being into a banner for their ideology of racial hatred, anti-Semitism, and ultimate destruction. They chose it for its supposed connection to a mythical Aryan past, fundamentally misrepresenting its true history and forever linking its image in the Western mind to the atrocities of the Holocaust and World War II. This act of cultural theft created a deep and painful schism in the symbol's meaning. In much of the Western world, the swastika is now almost exclusively a symbol of neo-Nazism and white supremacy, its sight evoking immediate revulsion and trauma. Yet, in many parts of Asia, its ancient, benevolent meaning remains untouched and continues to be used in daily religious and cultural life. This creates a complex cultural friction, where a sacred symbol of peace in one context is a vicious emblem of hate in another. Efforts to reclaim the swastika and educate people about its original, positive significance are ongoing, a difficult but necessary endeavor to separate the symbol from the crimes committed under its stolen visage. Its story is perhaps the most powerful example of how a symbol itself has no inherent meaning, only the meaning we, as a culture, choose to assign to it. It stands as a permanent testament to the dual nature of symbolism, its power to unite and to divide, to bless and to curse, all depending on the hands that wield it. From the deep roots of ancient myth to the branching diagrams of modern science, the Tree of Life stands as one of our most powerful and universal symbols of connection. This is not a single story from one culture, but a foundational idea that has taken root in nearly every corner of the human imagination. In Norse mythology, it was Yggdrasil, the immense and sacred ash tree whose roots and branches held the 9 worlds together, from the realm of the gods in Asgard to the land of the dead in Helheim. A serpent gnawed at its roots, an eagle perched in its highest boughs, and its very well-being was tied to the fate of the entire cosmos. This was no mere backdrop for the stories of Odin and Thor. Yggdrasil was the central pillar of existence itself, a living map of the universe and the connective tissue between all things. A similar, equally profound concept exists in the Jewish mystical tradition of Kabbalah, known as the Etz Chaim, or Tree of Life. Here, the symbol is a complex diagram of 10 spheres called Sephiroth, connected by 22 paths. Each sphere represents a different divine attribute, an aspect of God's emanation into the created world, from wisdom and understanding to beauty and sovereignty. The tree is not just a symbol but a meditative tool, a blueprint for the universe and the human soul's journey back toward the divine source. It maps the descent of creation from the infinite to the material and provides a path for spiritual ascent, illustrating how everything in existence is interconnected through these channels of sacred energy. But the resonance of this symbol extends far beyond these 2 well-known examples. We find sacred trees in the ancient epic of Gilgamesh, where a plant that grants immortality is stolen from the depths of the sea. We see it in the Bodhi tree under which the Buddha attained enlightenment, its roots grounding him to the earth as his mind reached ultimate liberation. In Mesoamerican cultures, the world tree was a central axis, a conduit connecting the underworld, the earthly realm, and the heavens. What is astonishing is not just the prevalence of this symbol, but the consistency of its meaning. Across vast distances and with no possibility of cultural contact, humanity independently arrived at the same powerful image to describe our place in the cosmos, a great, living tree linking everything together. This ancient, mystical idea found a startling echo in the cold, hard language of modern science. When Charles Darwin sketched a simple, branching diagram in his notebook in the 1830s, he was searching for a way to visualize the descent of all species from a common ancestor. He scribbled the words, "I think," above it, and in doing so gave birth to the concept of the evolutionary tree. This was not a conscious borrowing from mythology, but a separate, scientific arrival at the same profound truth, that all life on Earth is fundamentally, genetically interconnected. From the tiniest microbe to the largest whale, every living thing is a branch on this single, magnificent tree, sharing a common origin story written in our very DNA. This incredible adaptability of the symbol is what makes it so enduring. It serves as a perfect metaphor for family heritage, with genealogists creating sprawling family trees to trace their ancestry. It inspires artists and architects who use its branching form to represent growth and connectivity, and on a personal level, it encourages a powerful reflection. It reminds us that we are not isolated individuals but part of a vast living network. Our actions ripple through the branches, affecting the whole. The Tree of Life in all its forms offers a timeless and comforting wisdom. We are all rooted in the same earth, reaching for the same sky, and forever bound together in the beautiful, complex, and sacred web of existence. While the Tree of Life maps our external connection to the cosmos, our next symbol invites us on an inward journey to map the cosmos of the self. The mandala, a Sanskrit word simply meaning circle, is so much more than its geometric form suggests. In Hindu and Buddhist traditions, these intricate, concentric designs are nothing less than miniature universes and profound tools for spiritual awakening. A traditional mandala is a complex symphony of shapes, a central point, surrounded by layers of squares, triangles, and always an encompassing outer circle. This structure is deeply intentional. The center represents the universe's core, the divine seed from which all creation springs. The surrounding layers symbolize the various dimensions of existence, and the unbroken outer circle contains this entire cosmos, representing the boundless, eternal nature of reality itself. Creating a mandala is itself a sacred act, a form of active meditation. In Tibetan Buddhism, monks painstakingly craft incredibly detailed mandalas from millions of grains of colored sand. This process can take days or even weeks, a lesson in impermanence, concentration, and devotion. Every line, every color is chosen with symbolic purpose. The 5 traditional colors, white, yellow, red, green, and blue, often represent the 5 elements or the 5 transcendent Buddhas. Once the magnificent piece is complete in a powerful and poignant ritual, it is immediately swept away. The sands are gathered and poured into a flowing body of water, a visceral demonstration that all things are transient, and that the goal is not to cling to the beautiful creation, but to internalize the peace and wisdom found in the process of its making. This ancient spiritual technology has found a powerful and unexpected home in the modern West, particularly through the work of Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. Jung encountered mandalas during a period of intense personal turmoil and was struck by how his patients, with no knowledge of Eastern traditions, would spontaneously draw similar circular, symmetrical images in their notebooks. He came to see the mandala as a fundamental archetype of the human psyche, a representation of the innate human drive toward wholeness and integration. For Jung, creating a mandala was an act of self-healing, a way for the unconscious mind to project its contents and for the individual to organize the chaos of their inner world into a pattern of balance and order, moving toward what he called the individuated self. This psychological insight paved the way for the mandala's widespread use in modern art therapy. Therapists use mandala drawing as a non-verbal tool to help clients reduce stress, access subconscious thoughts, and express emotions that are difficult to articulate with words. The act of focusing on a symmetrical design within a safe, contained circle can be incredibly calming for the nervous system, providing a sense of stability and control. It's a practice that has moved far beyond the therapy room, becoming a popular form of mindfulness for people everywhere, with countless coloring books dedicated to intricate mandala designs offering a simple, accessible path to a meditative state. The mandala's influence extends even into the architecture we inhabit and the brands we interact with daily. The great rose windows of medieval European cathedrals, though Christian in their imagery, function as architectural mandalas. Their radiating patterns of stained glass, organized around a central point, are designed to lift the gaze and the spirit upward, inspiring awe and contemplation in worshippers. On a completely different scale, look at the logos of some of the world's most recognizable companies. The layered, concentric rings of a Target store or the balanced, circular emblem of BMW subconsciously leverage the mandala's principles of harmony, focus, and universal order. They are trusted, familiar, and feel fundamentally right to our eyes, tapping into a deep, ancient recognition of the circle as a symbol of completeness. From the sand-strewn floors of Tibetan monasteries to the screens of our digital devices, the mandala endures because it speaks a universal language of seeking, a visual prayer for balance, a map for the journey inward, and a timeless reminder that within each of us exists a still, sacred center, around which the beautiful chaos of life can finally find its perfect, harmonious order. Just as the mandala offers a map for inner peace through careful construction, our next symbol presents a far more dramatic path to transformation, one forged not in serene patterns, but in the cleansing fury of fire itself. The phoenix, that magnificent mythical bird consumed by flames only to be reborn from its own ashes, is perhaps the ultimate symbol of hope emerging from total devastation. Its story is not one of gentle evolution, but of catastrophic end and glorious new beginning, a narrative so powerful that it has independently taken flight in the mythologies of cultures separated by vast oceans and centuries. In ancient Egypt, it was the Bennu bird, a heron-like deity linked to the sun god Ra and the annual flooding of the Nile, which brought life back to the parched land. The Egyptians saw in this bird the very essence of creation rising from the primordial waters, a daily reaffirmation of life's victory over death. This concept soared into Greek mythology, where the historian Herodotus provided one of the earliest detailed accounts. He described a magnificent eagle-sized bird with brilliant red and gold plumage that would travel to the Temple of the Sun in Heliopolis every 500 years. There, the phoenix would build a fragrant nest of spices like cinnamon and myrrh, which would then be ignited by the sun's rays or by the bird fanning its own wings, reducing itself to ashes. From this pyre, a new, young phoenix would emerge, destined to live another long cycle. This Greek version cemented the core elements of the myth, the cyclicity, the self-immolation, and the miraculous rebirth, that would go on to captivate the Western imagination for millennia. But the phoenix was never a solely Western idea. In Chinese mythology, the Feng Huang is a majestic, composite creature often mistranslated as a phoenix, but embodying a similar grandeur. Unlike its Western counterpart, the Feng Huang does not cyclically burn and rise. Instead, it is an immortal symbol of high virtue and grace, representing the Empress and the harmonious union of Yin and Yang. It appears only in times of peace and prosperity, a benevolent omen signaling a golden age. Meanwhile, in Persian legend, the Simurgh is a vast, wise, and compassionate bird so old it has seen the world destroyed 3 times over, making it a repository of all knowledge and a different kind of immortal, enduring entity. These parallel myths highlight a universal human fascination with a creature that exists outside the normal bounds of life and death, whether through fiery renewal or timeless wisdom. This powerful narrative of resurrection made the phoenix an irresistible symbol for early Christianity. Church fathers saw in its cyclical rebirth a perfect parallel for the resurrection of Christ, and by extension, the promise of eternal life for all believers. It became a popular motif in Christian art and literature, a symbol of hope and salvation that transcended its pagan origins. Its literary legacy is immense. William Shakespeare used it in his plays, The Phoenix and the Turtle, and in Henry Roman IV to symbolize unparalleled virtue and renewal. It soared through the works of poets from Dante to Milton, always carrying that potent message of triumphant return. In our modern era, the phoenix has found a new roost in the realms of fantasy literature and popular culture. It is a central creature in the Harry Potter series, where the loyal phoenix fox possesses healing tears and carries burdens too heavy for others, embodying sacrifice and friendship. Its image fuels the names and logos of countless companies, cities, and products, from a famous financial services firm to the capital of Arizona, all seeking to project an image of resilience, innovation, and the ability to rise from any challenge. We see it in the stories of communities rebuilding after natural disasters, and in the personal journeys of individuals overcoming profound personal loss. The phoenix endures because its story is our story. We all face moments of utter destruction when it seems everything we have built has turned to ash. The phoenix does not promise to spare us that fire. Instead, it offers the breathtaking promise that from those very ashes, we too can emerge renewed, transformed, and perhaps even more magnificent than before. Now, let's untangle a symbol that stands as one of history's most fascinating cases of mistaken identity, a mix-up that has literally become emblematic of an entire profession. We encounter the Caduceus, a staff elegantly entwined by 2 serpents crowned with a pair of wings. This image is plastered on ambulances, engraved on medical plaques, and stitched onto the lab coats of doctors across the United States, universally recognized as a symbol of medicine and healing. The profound irony, however, is that this symbol was never originally about health at all. Its true roots lie in the bustling world of commerce, travel, and trickery, as the primary attribute of the swift-footed Greek god Hermes, known to the Romans as Mercury. As the divine messenger, Hermes was the patron of not just communication, but also of merchants, thieves, and eloquence. His Caduceus was a herald staff, a badge of office that granted its bearer diplomatic immunity, allowing them to pass safely through foreign lands to negotiate treaties and conduct trade. The serpents represented balanced opposition and cunning negotiation, while the wings signified the speed and fluidity of communication and commerce. So how did this emblem of deals and diplomacy become so widely confused with the true symbol of medicine? That honor belongs to the rod of Asclepius, a far simpler staff with a single, non-winged serpent coiled around it. Asclepius was the actual Greek god of medicine and healing, and his single serpent symbol has a deeply resonant origin. The serpent, through its ability to shed its skin, has long been a near-universal symbol of renewal and regeneration. Furthermore, ancient medicinal practices sometimes involve the use of certain non-venomous snakes in healing rituals. This single snake staff was the authentic symbol used for millennia by medical professionals throughout Europe. The great historical mix-up began in the late 19th and early 20th centuries in the United States, largely due to misunderstandings and institutional choices. Many historians point to the influence of prominent U.S. Army Medical Corps insignia adoptions, where the more visually striking and martial-looking Caduceus was mistakenly chosen over the correct rod of Asclepius, perhaps influenced by its resemblance to a military emblem. Publishing houses specializing in medical texts also began using the Caduceus on their covers, further cementing the error in the public consciousness. Despite this historical accident, the Caduceus is far from an empty symbol. Its imagery of two serpents coiled around a central axis speaks to a profound and universal theme, the reconciliation of opposites. This echoes powerful concepts found across cultures, from the intertwining serpents of the DNA double helix that carries our genetic code to the ancient Eastern concept of balancing dualistic energies, not unlike the interplay of yin and yang. The staff itself can be seen as a world axis, a central pillar of stability, while the mirrored serpents represent the constant dialogue and necessary balance between opposing forces, life and death, health and illness, even the physician's role in navigating the delicate balance between a disease and the body's attempt to heal. In this light, the mistaken adoption of the Caduceus takes on a new, almost poetic meaning. Modern medicine is, after all, a vast and complex exchange. It involves the negotiation of diagnoses between doctor and patient, the commerce of pharmaceuticals, and the constant, eloquent communication required to understand a human body in distress. The Caduceus, in its original spirit, symbolizes the very dialogue at the heart of healing. So while the rod of Asclepius remains the correct and historically accurate symbol for the medical field, the Caduceus endures as a potent, if accidental, emblem for the intricate balance, communication, and harmonious exchange that underpin the entire practice of medicine. And now we arrive at a symbol so universal, so deeply embedded in our daily language of emotion, that its anatomical inaccuracy is completely irrelevant to its power. The familiar heart shape, with its two rounded lobes meeting at a delicate point, looks nothing like the actual muscular organ pumping blood through our bodies. Yet this simple, elegant silhouette is instantly understood across the globe to represent the very core of human feeling: love, compassion, affection, and deep emotional connection. Its journey to this status is a fascinating puzzle, with its origins lost to time and debated by historians, each theory offering a glimpse into how abstract forms can become saturated with profound meaning. One of the most poetic theories traces the shape back to the ancient world, not to a heart but to a leaf. The silphium plant, a type of giant fennel that grew in the North African city of Cyrene, was so crucial to the local economy that its distinct heart-shaped seed pod was stamped onto their currency. Silphium was famed throughout the Mediterranean as a potent medicine, and most notably as a form of birth control. Its association with intimacy and physical love was so strong that it became a widely recognized symbol for these concepts. While the plant was harvested to extinction due to its immense popularity, its symbolic legacy may have lived on in this distinctive shape, forever linking it to matters of the heart. Other theories suggest a more artistic evolution. Some medieval scholars propose that the symbol emerged from the writings of ancient philosophers like Aristotle, who described the human heart as a three-chambered organ with a dip in the middle. While this description is also not entirely accurate, it may have influenced early anatomical drawings, Another compelling idea points to the practice of courtly love in the Middle Ages. When books were rare and illiteracy was common, symbols were a powerful language. Troubadours and artists seeking a simple visual shorthand for romantic love and devotion may have stylized and simplified existing shapes like the ivy leaf, a plant known for its tenacity and eternal growth, into the form we recognize today. This form was then popularized through its use on beautifully illustrated playing cards and in religious art depicting the Sacred Heart of Jesus, representing divine love and compassion. Regardless of its murky origins, the symbol's adoption was sealed by the rise of Valentine's Day greetings in the 18th and 19th centuries. The commercialization of the holiday through printed cards mass-produced the heart symbol, pairing it with cupids and flowers and cementing its romantic connotations in the public imagination. This was the catalyst that launched it into the stratosphere of global iconography. In the 20th century, it was embraced by pop culture, from the famous I Heart Suit NY campaign that made it a verb to the rock and roll era where it became a badge of youthful passion. And in the digital age, it has found its ultimate ubiquitous form, the emoji. This tiny red icon is now the most universal tool we have for expressing affection, approval, and empathy across every language barrier, tapped billions of times a day to soften a message, show support, or simply say, "I care." The heart symbol's unparalleled success lies in its perfect blend of simplicity and emotional depth. Its smooth, symmetrical curves are visually pleasing and easy to draw or recognize at any scale. But more importantly, it taps into something fundamental within us. It externalizes an internal feeling, giving a tangible form to the intangible experience of love. It represents not the physical heart but the metaphorical one, the seat of our emotions, our capacity for vulnerability, and our deepest connections to others. It is a symbol that requires no translation, a silent testament to our universal human desire to give and receive love, making it one of the most powerful and enduring cultural symbols to ever transcend time and geography. While the heart shape speaks a global language of human emotion, our next symbol represents a sound, a vibration so fundamental that it is considered the very hum of the universe itself. The Aum symbol, often written as Aum, is far more than a spiritual logo. It is a sacred syllable, a cosmic concept, and a precise geometric form that together encapsulate the essence of existence according to ancient Indian philosophies. To view it merely as a decorative element is to miss its profound depth, for it is believed to be the primordial sound from which all of creation emerged, the sonic seed of the cosmos. In the foundational texts of Hinduism, the Vedas, the entire universe is said to have vibrated into being from this single, resonant tone, making it the ultimate symbol of the interconnectedness of all matter and energy. The symbol's visual form is a masterpiece of sacred geometry, with each element corresponding to a different state of consciousness. The large lower curve represents the waking state, our ordinary experience of the world through our senses. The upper curve signifies the state of deep sleep, a realm of unconscious rest. The curve protruding from the center symbolizes the dream state, that bridge between waking and sleeping. The crescent shape above these is Maya, the veil of illusion that separates us from the highest state, represented by the dot at the very top. This final point is Turiya, pure, absolute consciousness, the ultimate reality that underlies and unites all other states. When chanted correctly, the sound itself unfolds in three parts: A-R, which originates in the belly and represents birth; U-Uo, which resonates in the chest and symbolizes life; and M-M-M, which vibrates in the head and signifies death. The silence that follows the chant is the fourth, ineffable state, the transcendental peace of Torii. This intricate mapping of sound, symbol, and state of being makes Ankh a complete spiritual toolkit for meditation and self-inquiry. This profound significance has made Ankh a central pillar in the practices of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. In Hinduism, it is the most sacred mantra, prefacing nearly all prayers and chants to purify the intention and connect the speaker to the divine. In Buddhism, particularly in Tibetan traditions, Ankh is often the first part of the most famous mantra, Aum Mani Padme Hum, where it symbolizes the practitioner's impure body, speech, and mind, which are transformed into the pure, enlightened state of a Buddha. In Jainism, it is considered one of the 5 paramount mantras and is often chanted during worship. The act of vocalizing or mentally repeating this sound is not just a prayer, it is a vibrational therapy, a way to synchronize one's own energy with the fundamental frequency of the universe, promoting a profound sense of inner calm and focus. In recent decades, the Ankh symbol has undergone a remarkable journey from the temples of the East to the yoga studios and living rooms of the West. Its elegant, flowing calligraphy has made it a popular design for jewelry, tattoos, and home decor. This global adoption is about much more than aesthetic appeal. It reflects a widespread, growing yearning for meaning and mindfulness in an increasingly fragmented and fast-paced world. For many, wearing an Ankh pendant or seeing the symbol in a yoga space is not a statement of religious affiliation, but rather an acknowledgement of a shared human quest for inner peace, a reminder to breathe, to center oneself, and to seek a connection to something greater than the day-to-day noise. It represents a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern wellness, offering a tangible touchpoint to practices that cultivate presence and reduce stress. This cross-cultural embrace, however, also invites an important conversation about respect and understanding. As the symbol enters mainstream global culture, there is a responsibility to appreciate its deep spiritual roots and to move beyond treating it as a simple fashion trend. Learning to chant it properly, understanding its components, and respecting its sacred context enriches the experience and honors the millennia of tradition it represents. The Ankh symbol's enduring power lies in its unique ability to be both universally accessible and deeply esoteric. It serves as an open door for the curious seeker and a boundless ocean of meaning for the devoted practitioner, forever humming the silent song that connects every one of us to the infinite. Moving from the universal language of the heart to the precise geometry of sacred knowledge, we come to a symbol whose very lines seem to thrum with ancient power and profound misunderstanding. The pentagram, a 5-pointed star drawn with a single, unbroken line, is a geometric marvel and one of humanity's oldest and most complex symbols. Its journey begins not in shadowy rituals, but in the very cradle of civilization. Over 5,000 years ago, in ancient Mesopotamia, the pentagram was used as a royal symbol, appearing on the seals of kings and signifying imperial power and divine protection. It was a practical tool as well. The Sumerians noted that the planet Venus traced a perfect pentagram in the night sky over an 8-year cycle, leading them to associate the symbol with the goddess Ichthy, connecting it to ideas of love, war, and celestial order. This geometric perfection captivated the brilliant minds of ancient Greece. The mathematician Pythagoras and his followers, the Pythagoreans, revered the pentagram as a symbol of ultimate harmony and health. They were astonished by its unique mathematical properties, finding the golden ratio, a proportion considered the key to aesthetic beauty, embedded within its intersecting lines. They used it as a secret sign to recognize one another, and for them, it represented the 5 elements they believed made up the world: earth, air, fire, water, and idea or spirit. This concept of the 5 elements would be a thread that ran through the symbol's history for millennia. The pentagram was, to the Pythagoreans, a perfect emblem of the mathematical order they believed underpinned the entire universe, a tangible piece of cosmic truth. In a fascinating twist of cultural adaptation, early Christians saw profound meaning in the pentagram's 5 points as well, but through a completely different lens. They interpreted it as a symbol of the 5 wounds Christ received during the crucifixion, the 2 in his hands, the 2 in his feet, and the spear wound in his side. In this context, the uninterrupted line represented the eternal nature of Christ's sacrifice and protection. For centuries, the pentagram was a common, positive Christian symbol, carved into church stonework and featured in Gothic architecture. It was Sir Gawain's emblem in the Arthurian legend, with the 5 points representing his 5 knightly virtues: generosity, courtesy, chastity, chivalry, and piety. The symbol was so deeply integrated into medieval Christian culture that it was considered a potent talisman against evil, a far cry from the sinister associations it would later acquire. This dramatic shift in perception began largely in the 19th and 20th centuries. A significant turning point was the influential French occultist Eliphas Lévy, who in the 1850s published drawings depicting an inverted pentagram with a goat's head inside it, which he called the Baphomet. This image was intended to represent the material world overpowering the spiritual. This potent and provocative imagery was later adopted and popularized by figures like Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan in the 1960s, who used the inverted pentagram as the official symbol of his organization. Through horror films and sensationalized media, this specific inverted usage became erroneously conflated with the pentagram in general, creating a powerful and enduring public misconception that the symbol itself was inherently evil. This modern association, however, tells only a tiny fraction of the story. For the vast majority of its long history, and for many people today, the pentagram remains a powerful and positive emblem. In modern pagan traditions, particularly Wicca, the pentagram is the central symbol of faith. It is worn as a sign of identity and protection, and it represents the balance of the 4 classical elements: earth, air, fire, and water, crowned by the 5th element of spirit, symbolizing how the spiritual realm guides and unites the physical world. When drawn within a circle, becoming a pentacle, it further represents the connection and containment of these forces. Its single, unbroken line signifies the endless cycle of life and the interconnectedness of all things. Far from being a sign of malevolence, it is a sacred symbol of harmony, a wearable piece of the cosmos that reminds the wearer of their place within the natural world and their responsibility to maintain balance within themselves and with the environment. Its enduring power lies in this incredible duality. It is a perfect geometric form that has effortlessly held the weight of countless human interpretations, from imperial power to mathematical truth, from divine sacrifice to nature worship, proving that a symbol's true meaning is always and forever held in the eye and the intention of the beholder. While the pentagram's perfect symmetry speaks of balance and harmony, our next symbol embraces a more dynamic and asymmetrical energy, one that seems to be in a state of constant, purposeful motion. The Triskelion, with its 3 interlocking spirals or radiating bent legs, is a symbol that doesn't just sit still on the page it spins. It runs, it propels itself forward. This powerful sense of kinetic energy is its most defining feature, a visual representation of progress, cycles, and the relentless forward march of time. The very word Triskelion comes from the Greek triskels, meaning 3-legged. and this simple description belies the profound complexity of its meaning across the ancient world. We find one of its most iconic iterations in the flag of Sicily, where it takes the form of 3 bent human legs joined at the thigh, radiating from the head of the Gorgon Medusa. This striking image, known as the Trinacria, is deeply rooted in the island's geography and mythology. The 3 legs represent the 3 capes of Sicily's triangular shape, while the Gorgon's head, with its serpent hair, was a classical symbol of protection, warding off evil spirits. But the meaning runs even deeper. The running legs symbolize the island's resilience and its constant, dynamic progress, a community forever moving forward despite any challenges it might face. It's a powerful statement of identity that turns a simple geographic fact into a profound emblem of cultural spirit. Venturing northwest to the Celtic realms, we encounter a different but equally potent version of the Triskelion. Here, it is most often composed of 3 interlocking spirals, a design that feels both ancient and infinitely complex. For the Celts, who revered the natural world and its cycles above all else, the number 3 held immense sacred power. The Triskelion was believed to represent a multitude of powerful triplicities, the 3 domains of land, sea, and sky, the 3 phases of life, youth, adulthood, and old age, and the 3 aspects of the triple goddess maiden, mother, and crone. Unlike the Sicilian version that charges outward, the Celtic Triskelion often feels like it is turning inward, drawing energy from the center and radiating it back out in an endless, flowing cycle of birth, life, and rebirth. It was a symbol of personal growth and spiritual evolution, a map for the soul's journey. This theme of triadic power was not exclusive to Europe. We see echoes of it in the ancient Greek symbol of the Meander, and even in the 3 interlocking triangles of the Norse Valknut. What unites all these interpretations is the universal human recognition of the number 3 as a fundamental building block of reality. We see it in our own lives in the past, present, and future. We experience it in the beginning, middle, and end of every story. The Triskelion captures this primal pattern and sets it into motion. Its asymmetrical design is crucial. A perfect circle or square implies completion and stasis, but the Triskelion is intentionally unfinished, suggesting perpetual motion, growth, and the ongoing process of becoming. It is a symbol that is actively going somewhere, and it invites us to join it on that journey. This inherent sense of forward momentum and resilience has made the Triskelion incredibly appealing in our modern era. Its distinctive, energetic form has been adopted by corporations, sports teams, and organizations that want to project an image of progress, agility, and continuous improvement. You'll find it in logos for cutting-edge tech companies and on the jerseys of athletes, all tapping into that ancient visual language of unstoppable advancement. More personally, it has become a popular motif for tattoos, chosen by individuals as a permanent reminder of their own life's journey, their resilience through hardship, and their commitment to keep moving forward, to keep evolving. The Triskelion does not promise a destination. Instead, it celebrates the motion itself. It is a 1,000-year-old piece of wisdom etched in stone and inked on skin, reminding us that to be alive is to be in a constant state of flow, and that our greatest strength lies in our ability to adapt, to progress, and to keep turning always toward the light. Yet, even as the cross took on this profound new meaning in Christianity, its geometric power was resonating in entirely different ways across the globe, proving its form speaks a universal language far older than any single faith. Long before the crucifixion, the ancient Egyptians used the Ankh, a cross topped with a loop, as their key of life. In Mesopotamia, the equal-armed cross was a symbol of the sun god Shamash, representing the 4 directions and the spreading rays of light. For many Native American cultures, the cross beautifully mapped the physical and spiritual world, its 4 points signifying the cardinal directions, the 4 sacred winds, and the essential elements of earth, air, fire, and water. This was not about sacrifice, but about orientation and balance, a way to place oneself at the harmonious center of a vast, living cosmos. The cross, in its purest geometric form, is the meeting place of the vertical and the horizontal, a point of perfect intersection. This simple, powerful idea makes it a natural symbol for the connection between the divine, which is often conceived as above, and the earthly realm of human experience below. It is the axis where heaven and earth meet, a concept that appears in countless spiritual traditions independent of each other. This inherent duality gives the cross an incredible versatility. It can be a map, a compass, a representation of the human body with outstretched arms, or a symbol of the cosmic order. Its sheer simplicity is its genius, a shape so fundamental that it effortlessly absorbs and projects a vast spectrum of human hopes and beliefs. This is why we find it etched into prehistoric cave walls, stamped on ancient coins, and woven into the patterns of traditional textiles from Scandinavia to South America. In our modern world, this universal appeal continues. We see it in the plus sign of mathematics and medicine, in the crossroads of travel and decision-making, and in the bold graphics of flags and corporate logos. The cross endures not merely as a religious icon, but as one of humanity's most primal and powerful geometric intuitions, a timeless testament to our innate desire to find meaning at the intersection, to seek connection between opposing forces, and to locate our own center within the vast, 4-directional expanse of existence. If the cross and the Triskelion map our place in the cosmos and our journey through it, the spiral invites us to contemplate the very nature of that journey's path, not as a straight line, but as an ever-unfolding, expanding curve. This is perhaps the most fundamental pattern we find etched into the human imagination and the natural world itself, a shape that seems to whisper secrets about growth, evolution, and the very energy of the cosmos. Its story begins in deep prehistory, carved into stone tombs like Newgrange in Ireland over 5,000 years ago. These ancient people, without any knowledge of galaxies or DNA, were drawn to this form, perhaps observing it in the twisting vines of plants, the swirling patterns of water, or the unfurling fronds of a fern. They saw in its continuous, flowing line a powerful representation of the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, a symbol of the sun's journey and the turning of the seasons. This primal understanding of the spiral as a map of existence blossomed independently across the globe. In Celtic art, the spiral is the heart of intricate knots, representing the eternal cycle of life and the interconnectedness of all spiritual and physical realms. It was never merely decoration, it was a sacred language. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the spiral is a fundamental component of mandalas and sacred diagrams, often symbolizing the expansion of consciousness from a single point of awareness outward to encompass the entire universe. It is the path of meditation, turning inward to reach a higher state. For many Native American tribes, spirals carved into rock petroglyphs served as solstice markers, maps of migrations, or symbols of the life-giving force of water and the journey of the soul. The Hopi, for instance, see the spiral as representing the migrations of their people and the emergence into this world from the previous one. What makes the spiral so universally compelling is that it is not an abstract human invention. It is the universe's own signature. We find it at every scale of existence, a phenomenon known as biomimicry on a cosmic level. Look through a telescope and you will see it in the majestic whirl of galaxies, their arms spinning out from a central core in a pattern that mirrors the water draining from your bathtub. Peer through a microscope, and you will find it in the elegant double helix of our DNA, the coiled blueprint for all life. Walk along a beach, and you will hold it in your hand in the form of a nautilus shell, whose chambers grow in a perfect logarithmic spiral, each one larger than the last but perfectly proportional. This is not a coincidence. It is a fundamental pattern of efficient growth and dynamic energy in a constrained system. The spiral shows us that the universe has a preferred way of building things, a pattern that is both incredibly strong and beautifully economical. This profound connection to natural order is why the spiral continues to captivate artists, scientists, and spiritual seekers with undiminished power. For the artist, the spiral is a source of hypnotic beauty and dynamic composition, used by everyone from Vincent van Gogh in his Starry Nights to modern sculptors exploring concepts of infinity. For the scientist, it is a key to understanding the universe's mathematical underpinnings, a visible expression of the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio. For the spiritual seeker, it is a metaphor for the inward and outward journey of the soul, the path to the center of one's being to find truth, and the subsequent expansion of that truth into the world. It represents evolution not as a linear progression, but as a cyclical process of learning, growing, and transcending. The spiral does not promise a final destination. Instead, it offers the comforting wisdom that we are all part of a vast, beautiful, and intelligent pattern of growth, forever expanding into the infinite potential of what we might become. From the grand cosmic spirals of creation, we now turn our gaze downward to a humble yet astonishing creature of the earth, whose daily routine elevated it to the status of a god, and whose form became one of ancient Egypt's most potent and enduring symbols of hope. The scarab beetle, a common dung beetle, might seem like an unlikely candidate for divine veneration. Yet to the ancient Egyptians, this industrious insect was a living, breathing miracle, a tiny embodiment of the most profound cosmic principles. They observed the scarab rolling its ball of dung across the ground, a behavior that sparked one of history's most beautiful and resonant metaphors. The Egyptians saw in this simple act a parallel to their sun god Khepri, who was believed to roll the disk of the sun across the sky each day, bringing light, warmth, and life to the world. The very name Khepri means he who comes into being, linking the god and the beetle directly to the concept of spontaneous creation, transformation, and the dawn of a new day. This connection was made even more powerful by the scarab's life cycle. The female beetle would lay her eggs inside the dung ball and bury it in the earth. After a time, new, fully formed beetles would emerge from the ground, seemingly from nothing. To the Egyptian mind, this was not just biology, it was magic. It was a perfect, observable symbol of resurrection and rebirth, a daily promise that life could emerge from something considered waste and that the soul could triumph over death. The scarab, therefore, became the ultimate emblem of transformation, the belief that a state of decay could be the very catalyst for a glorious new beginning. This powerful idea was not left as a mere philosophical observation. It was woven into the very fabric of Egyptian funerary practices. Elaborately carved scarab amulets, often made from glimmering green stones like jade or feldspar to represent new growth and vitality, were placed over the heart of the mummified deceased. These heart scarabs were inscribed with spells from the Book of the Dead, specifically a plea to the heart not to bear witness against the soul during the final judgment before the god Osiris. It was a charm for protection, ensuring the heart would remain silent about any misdeeds and thus guarantee the soul's safe passage and rebirth into the afterlife. The scarab's influence, however, scurried far beyond the borders of the Nile Valley. While the specific religious context is unique to Egypt, the core themes it represents are undeniably universal. We find similar reverence for the beetle in other cultures, often tied to solar symbolism and creation myths. The scarab's message of resilience, of finding a way to create something vital from what is discarded, of persevering against immense odds, is a human story that transcends culture and epoch. It is a narrative of tenacity and hope that resonates as strongly today as it did thousands of years ago. In our modern context, the scarab has been joyfully adopted as a personal talisman, a popular motif for jewelry and tattoos. People are drawn to it not necessarily for its connection to an ancient god, but for what that god represents: the ability to overcome challenges, to transform one's circumstances, and to continually reinvent oneself. It symbolizes the strength to keep pushing your own sun across the sky, no matter how heavy the burden may feel. It is a reminder that we all possess an innate capacity for renewal, that within us is the same creative force that turns dung into life and the darkness of night into the brilliance of day. The scarab's enduring legacy is a testament to the timeless human need for symbols that assure us that endings are never final, and that from the most unlikely of places, new life is always waiting to emerge. While the scarab embodies a personal journey of transformation emerging from the earth, our next symbol extends its protective embrace outward, offering a shield against unseen forces that might threaten our peace. The Hamsa, an elegant amulet shaped like a symmetrical open hand, is one of the most recognizable and cross-cultural talismans for warding off misfortune, particularly the pervasive fear of the evil eye. This ancient symbol's power lies not in its connection to a single deity or story, but in its ability to absorb meaning from multiple faiths, becoming a universal hand of protection held up against the uncertainties of the world. Known as the Hand of Fatima in Islamic tradition, it is linked to Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad, symbolizing faith, patience, and femininity. In Jewish lore, it is the hand of Miriam, evoking the righteous and protective sister of Moses and Aaron. Some Christian communities in the Middle East have also adopted it, sometimes associating it with the hand of the Virgin Mary. This shared reverence across Abrahamic faiths is a powerful testament to its role as a bridge between cultures, a silent agreement on the need for spiritual safeguards that transcends theological differences. The origins of the Hamsa stretch back far earlier than these religious interpretations, deep into the ancient world. Archaeologists have found similar hand-shaped amulets in the ruins of Carthage, where the Phoenicians used them in worship of the goddess Tanit, a powerful deity associated with the moon, fertility, and the cycle of life. Even earlier evidence points to its use in ancient Mesopotamia, where a widespread belief in malevolent spirits and the evil eye necessitated the creation of potent protective charms. The symbol's most distinctive feature, an eye embedded directly in the palm of the hand, is a direct response to this ancient fear. The concept of the evil eye, the idea that a look of envy or malice could project tangible harm, illness, or bad luck, is one of the most universal superstitions in human history, spanning from the Mediterranean and the Middle East to Latin America and South Asia. The Hamsa's central eye acts as a mirror, reflecting this negative energy back upon itself and neutralizing its power before it can reach the wearer. It is a symbol that fights fire with fire, using the very instrument of harm as its primary means of defense. Beyond its defensive role, the Hamsa is also a powerful attractor of positive energy. The open hand itself is a profoundly meaningful shape across cultures. It can represent the 5 books of the Torah in Judaism, the 5 pillars of Islam in that tradition, or simply the 5 senses in a more universal sense. The fingers are often pointed upward to ward off negativity, but when pointed down, the symbol is thought to invite abundance, good luck, and happiness into one's life. This dual function makes it a versatile spiritual tool, not just a passive shield but an active conduit for blessings. In many designs, the hand is adorned with other symbols of protection and prosperity, such as fish representing luck and fertility in many Mediterranean cultures, inscriptions of prayers, or intricate patterns that themselves are believed to hold mystical power. The beauty of the design, often crafted in silver or gold and inlaid with vibrant blue stones like lapis lazuli or turquoise, colors traditionally linked to protection, makes it a wearable piece of art that carries deep significance. In our modern, globalized world, the Hamsa has been enthusiastically adopted far beyond its traditional homelands. It appears on jewelry, wall hangings, keychains, and even clothing, often stripped of its specific religious context and appreciated more for its aesthetic appeal and general spiritual vibe. This popularization, while a sign of its widespread appeal, does sometimes lead to conversations about cultural appropriation versus appreciation. For many from Jewish and Islamic backgrounds, the Hamsa is not a mere fashion statement but a deeply cultural object with centuries of meaning. The most respectful way to engage with the symbol is to understand its rich and shared heritage, to recognize it as more than just a pretty design. Its enduring power, ultimately, lies in its simplicity and the primal human need it addresses. In a world that can often feel chaotic and unpredictable, the Hamsa is a tangible reminder of our desire for safety, for community, and for a little bit of magic to help guide our way. It is a silent prayer worn on the body, an ancient and open hand held up in a universal gesture that says, in every language, "May you be protected." While the Hamsa offers a hand of protection against the waking world's envious glances, our next symbol weaves a web of safety for the most vulnerable part of our day, the mysterious and uncontrolled realm of sleep. The Dreamcatcher, with its elegant hoop, intricate web, and dangling feathers, is a beautiful object whose true purpose runs far deeper than its decorative appeal. Its story begins with the Ojibwe people, one of the largest Native American groups in North America, and from there it spread to many other nations like the Lakota and Cherokee, each adding their own unique layers of meaning to the design. According to Ojibwe legend, the spiritual leader Asibikashi, or Spider Woman, was a protective figure who cared for the people, especially the children. As the tribe spread across the land, it became difficult for her to reach everyone, so she taught the mothers and grandmothers how to weave magical webs for their infants. These were not mere crafts, they were sacred talismans constructed with intention and prayer. The hoop, typically made of a pliable willow branch, represents the circle of life and the sun's daily journey across the sky. The web woven inside was not meant to trap dreams but to act as a filter. Bad dreams or negative energies would become tangled in the web and be burned away by the first light of dawn. Good dreams, however, knowing the true path, would slide down the soft feathers to the sleeping person below, bringing wisdom, peace, and pleasant visions. This beautiful interplay of materials is rich with spiritual significance. The feathers are not just a decorative touch, they are essential. In many native traditions, feathers represent air, breath, and communication with the spirit world. Their gentle movement is thought to help guide the good dreams down. The beads woven into the web can hold multiple meanings. Sometimes they represent the spider itself, other times they symbolize the good dreams that have been captured, or they act as charms with their own protective power. Traditionally, these dream catchers were small, personal items, often made for newborns and children, and they were not meant to last forever. The natural materials would eventually dry out, break, and return to the earth in a continuous cycle that mirrored the beliefs they represented. The act of creation was as important as the object itself. a ritual passed down through generations that connected the maker to their ancestors, their community, and the natural world. It was a deeply embedded cultural practice, a tangible expression of a worldview that sees all things people, animals, the wind, and even dreams as interconnected in a delicate, sacred web of life. The journey of the Dreamcatcher from a specific, sacred object to a global phenomenon is a tale of the 20th century. It began to gain wider recognition outside of native communities during the Pan-Indian movement of the 1960s and 70s, a period of cultural revitalization and political activism among Native American groups. As a symbol of unique indigenous identity and spirituality, it was shared and embraced. However, its adoption into mainstream popular culture accelerated at an astonishing pace. By the 1990s, Dreamcatchers had been utterly commercialized, mass-produced in factories overseas, and sold in every imaginable form, from keychains and car mirrors to T-shirt prints and Halloween costumes. They were stripped of their original context and meaning, transformed into a generic symbol of a vague, mystical Native American culture, often crafted and sold by people with no connection to the traditions from which it came. This widespread appropriation sparked an important and ongoing debate. For many Native people, seeing a sacred object of protection reduced to a cheap, poorly made trinket is deeply painful, a dilution and disrespect of their spiritual heritage. It raises complex questions about who has the right to create, sell, and profit from these cultural symbols. Yet, despite this problematic history, the Dreamcatcher's enduring global popularity points to something profound and universal in the human psyche. Its appeal transcends its commercialized form because it speaks to a fundamental, shared human anxiety, the vulnerability we feel when we sleep. Sleep is a state where we surrender control, where our subconscious mind takes over, and where we are visited by visions both wonderful and terrifying. Every culture on Earth has its own traditions and talismans for protecting the sleeper, from night prayers to guardian spirits. The Dreamcatcher, with its poetic logic and gentle aesthetics, perfectly fulfills this ancient need. It offers a tangible sense of comfort and safety, a charm against the night's uncertainties. People are drawn to it not just for its beauty, but for the hope it represents, the hope that the night can be filtered, that we can be shielded from our inner demons, and that we can welcome in visions that nourish rather than frighten. Its continued presence in bedrooms around the world, even in its mass-produced form, is a testament to a universal yearning for peace and a subconscious desire to connect to a wisdom that feels older, deeper, and more connected to the natural world than our modern lives often allow. Amidst the sun-baked canyons and towering mesas of the American Southwest, a mischievous and joyful figure has been dancing on stone walls for over 3,000 years. This is Kokopelli, the humpbacked flute player, one of the most ancient and enduring symbols of Native American culture. Unlike the solemn deities of other traditions, Kokopelli arrives with a playful tune, his bent posture and lively step telling a story that is far more complex than a first glance might suggest. His image, etched as a petroglyph into canyon walls by the ancestral Pueblones and carved as a pictograph onto pottery by the Hopi and Zuni, is not a portrait of a single god but a vibrant archetype representing the very spirit of creativity, fertility, and the unpredictable joy of life itself. That distinctive hump on his back is a subject of much intrigue. Some interpretations suggest it is a sack of seeds about to be scattered to bring forth new life, while others believe it represents a trader's pack filled with goods from distant lands. This duality captures his essence perfectly. He is both a practical bringer of sustenance and a magical herald of abundance. The music from his flute is central to his power. In the beliefs of the Hopi and other Pueblo peoples, the sound of the flute is not merely for entertainment. It is a potent spiritual tool. Its melody is said to mimic the sounds of nature, the trickle of spring runoff, the call of birds, the wind moving through the canyon, and in doing so, it has the power to beckon the rain clouds. As a harbinger of the spring thaw, Kokopelli's song chases away the winter and invites the rains necessary for the crops to sprout. This directly ties him to fertility, not just of the land, but of people and communities. In some traditions, his visit to a village is believed to promise prosperity, abundant harvests, and even pregnancy for the women who hear his playful tune. He is a trickster figure, full of chaotic and mischievous energy, but his tricks always ultimately serve a life-giving purpose, shaking people out of their routines and ensuring the continued cycle of growth and renewal. His journey from an ancient, sacred petroglyph to a ubiquitous modern icon is a fascinating story of cultural adaptation. For centuries, his image remained largely within the domain of the indigenous cultures that created him, a powerful symbol understood within its full spiritual context. However, in the 20th century, as the American Southwest became a destination for tourists, artists, and those seeking a connection to what they perceived as a simpler, more spiritual way of life, Kokopelli was discovered by the mainstream. His whimsical and appealing form was quickly adopted, appearing on everything from silver jewelry and T-shirts to garden statues and hotel logos. This commercialization has inevitably diluted his original meaning for many who encounter him. He is often reduced to a carefree sprite, a simple symbol of music and good times, stripped of his deeper connections to agriculture, trade, and spiritual ritual. This widespread adoption raises important questions about cultural appropriation versus appreciation. For some Native American communities, the mass production of their sacred symbol, often by outside entities with no understanding of its significance, can feel like a disrespectful commodification of their heritage. Yet, there is also an argument to be made for the symbol's resilience. Despite being separated from his original context, Kokopelli's core attributes, his joy, his creativity, his connection to nature's bounty, are so universally positive that they continue to resonate on a fundamental human level. His evolution mirrors that of many cultural symbols we've explored. He has been borrowed, reinterpreted, and reinvented, yet the essence of what he represents remains strangely intact. He endures because he speaks to a deep and timeless human desire for celebration, for the triumph of life over hardship, and for the power of music and art to stir the soul and connect us to the natural world in all its unpredictable, fertile, and mischievous glory. Nowhere is the cultural divide in symbolism more vividly illustrated than in the majestic and fearsome figure of the dragon, a mythical being whose very nature is split along a fascinating east-west axis. In the folklore of Europe, the dragon is almost universally a creature of chaos and evil, a fire-breathing, treasure-hoarding monster to be slain by a heroic knight like Saint George or Beowulf. It is the embodiment of a dangerous, untamed world that must be conquered by human courage and faith. But journey to the other side of the globe, and you will find a being of an entirely different character. In the traditions of China, Japan, and Korea, the dragon is a benevolent and divine creature, a symbol of potent blessings, profound wisdom, and celestial power. This is not a beast to be slain, but a revered force to be honored and appeased, a fundamental pillar of the natural and spiritual order. The Eastern dragon is deeply intertwined with the most vital element for life, water. Unlike its Western counterpart that breathes destructive fire, the Asian dragon is the master of rains, rivers, and seas. In Chinese mythology, the lung dragons are the guardians of waterfalls, lakes, and clouds. They are responsible for bringing the life-giving monsoon rains that nourish the crops and ensure a bountiful harvest. During times of drought, people would perform elaborate dragon dances and ceremonies to awaken the dragon from its slumber and plead for rain. This intimate connection to agriculture cemented the dragon's role as a symbol of prosperity and abundance for the entire community. Its serpentine, scaly body was seen as a reflection of the winding path of a river, and its ascent into the clouds represented the water cycle itself, the evaporation, formation of clouds, and the return of rain to the earth. It was the animating spirit of the natural world, a necessary and respected force. This celestial power also made the dragon the ultimate symbol of imperial authority. In China, the emperor was himself considered the son of heaven, and the dragon was his exclusive emblem. The five-clawed dragon, or long, was reserved for the emperor alone, adorning his throne, his robes, and every object associated with his divine right to rule. To use this symbol without permission was a treasonous offense. The dragon represented the emperor's wisdom, his strength, and his role as the intermediary between heaven and earth, responsible for maintaining harmony and order in the kingdom. This imperial association spread throughout the Sinosphere, with variations of the dragon appearing in Japanese and Korean art and regalia, always denoting nobility, power, and a connection to the divine. In astrology, the year of the dragon is considered the most auspicious in the Chinese zodiac, and those born under its sign are believed to be destined for success, health, and good fortune. The physical form of the Eastern dragon is a beautiful composite creature, a mosaic of symbolic parts that further illustrates its divine nature. It is said to have the horns of a stag, Chinese letter, wisdom and longevity, the head of a camel, the eyes of a demon, the neck of a snake, the belly of a clam, the scales of a carp, the claws of an eagle, and the paws of a tiger. Each element is drawn from an animal that excels in a particular attribute, combining them all into the ultimate celestial being. They are often depicted chasing or holding a luminous pearl, which represents wisdom, truth, or the moon, symbolizing the dragon's pursuit of enlightenment and its power over cosmic energy. These creatures are not winged, yet they fly through the heavens by magic, moving through the clouds they themselves create. This intricate design highlights the dragon's role as a unifying symbol, a creature that harmonizes the strengths of the entire animal kingdom into a single, powerful entity that governs the natural world. The stark contrast between the Eastern and Western dragon is a powerful lesson in how culture shapes mythology. Both cultures looked at the fundamental human experiences of power, nature, and the unknown, and created a powerful, reptilian being to explain them. Yet, one civilization saw this force as a threat to be vanquished, reflecting a worldview that emphasizes humanity's struggle against a hostile wilderness. The other saw it as a beneficent partner to be revered, reflecting a philosophy that seeks harmony with nature's cycles. This duality is precisely why the dragon remains one of the most captivating and versatile mythological symbols in the world. It contains a primal paradox representing both our deepest fears of uncontrollable power and our highest aspirations for wisdom and blessing. In our modern global culture, we now have the privilege of appreciating both interpretations, from the terrifying smog of Western fantasy to the wise and noble Shenron of Eastern anime, proving that this ancient symbol still has the power to breathe fire into our stories and soar through our imaginations. Now we venture into the cold, mist-shrouded world of the Norse, where a symbol of stark geometric power speaks not of gentle cycles, but of glorious death, unbreakable fate, and the awesome, terrifying authority of the All-Father himself. The Valknut, a symbol composed of 3 interlocking triangles, is one of the most enigmatic and potent icons to survive from the Viking Age. Its name itself is a modern invention, derived from the Old Norse words valor, meaning slain warriors, and nut, meaning knot, thus literally the knot of the slain. This name perfectly captures its primary association. It is overwhelmingly found on ancient runestones and funerary artifacts depicting scenes of heroic death, often in close proximity to the god Odin. It is the symbolic key to understanding the Norse worldview, a philosophy that embraced the inevitable with courage and sought meaning not in avoiding fate, but in meeting it with honor. The Valknut is almost never found alone. Its meaning is unlocked by the context in which it appears. On the famous Stora Hammars stone in Sweden, it is carved beside a scene of a warrior being sacrificed by spear, a method of execution sacred to Odin. On the Tengilgata stone, it appears next to a rider on an 8-legged horse, undoubtedly Odin's steed Sleipnir, arriving to gather the fallen. This consistent visual pairing is no accident. The Valknut represents Odin's power as the god of war, poetry, and death, the master of fate who presided over the battlefield and decided which warriors would be chosen to join the Einherjar, the glorious host of the slain, in his great hall of Valhalla. To die with the Valknut symbol nearby was to be marked by the god, to be selected for an eternity of feasting and preparation for the final battle of Ragnarok. It is a symbol of both terrifying obligation and ultimate reward, a visual contract between the mortal and the divine, but its meaning extends beyond the battlefield. The interlocked, three-part nature of the symbol connects it to the Norse concept of the web of fate, woven by the Norns, the three goddesses of destiny who shaped the lives of gods and humans alike. The 9 points of the 3 triangles may correspond to the 9 worlds of Norse cosmology, all held together and subject to the same unyielding laws of fate. The interconnected loops suggest the binding of the spirit, the intertwining of life, death, and the afterlife, and the inescapable nature of one's destiny. Unlike symbols that promise escape or transcendence, the Valknut affirms acceptance. It is a symbol of being bound to one's chosen path, of understanding that a warrior's death is the fulfillment of his purpose, and that true power lies in embracing the destiny that has been woven for you. In our modern era, the Valknut has been powerfully resurrected, though its re-emergence is layered with complexity. For practitioners of modern heathenry and asatru, it is a deeply sacred symbol of faith, a way to honor the gods and connect with their Norse heritage. It is worn with reverence and understanding, a mark of dedication to the values of courage, honor, and loyalty that defined the old ways. Simultaneously, its striking, intricate design and association with a romanticized Viking ideal have made it a popular motif in fantasy literature, heavy metal music, and tattoo art, where it often symbolizes a general love for Norse mythology or a personal philosophy of resilience and facing life's battles head-on. This popularity, however, comes with a cautionary note. The symbol's association with Odin and chosen warriors has, like many ancient symbols, been occasionally co-opted by certain white supremacist groups seeking to graft their ideology onto a powerful historical image. This misappropriation is a stark reminder of the responsibility that comes with adopting such potent imagery. It necessitates a conscious effort to reclaim and understand the Valknut's true meaning, not one of hatred or exclusion, but of cosmic order, acceptance of fate, and the timeless, heroic desire to live and die with purpose, bound forever to the legacy of those who came before. Imagine a world where declaring your faith could mean imprisonment or death, where a simple conversation with a stranger required a subtle, silent test of allegiance. This was the stark reality for the earliest Christians living under the Roman Empire, and it was within this pressure cooker of persecution that one of history's most ingenious and enduring symbols was born, the Ichthy's, or the Jesus fish. This was not a symbol designed for grand cathedrals or shouted from rooftops. It was a secret handshake, a coded message etched in dust, a lifeline for a community living in the shadows. Its power lay in its perfect, elegant simplicity, a shape that could be drawn in an instant with a single, flowing line, yet carried within it the entire foundational creed of a new faith. The genius of the Ichthy's is its layered meaning, a masterclass in symbolic communication. On its most visible level, it is just a fish, a common sight in the daily life of Mediterranean cultures and a central element in many gospel stories. Jesus himself called his disciples to become fishers of men, and the miracles of the loaves and fishes were testament to divine abundance. But the true, hidden power of the symbol was an acronym, a secret known only to the initiated. The Greek word for fish is ichthys, and early Christians used each letter of this word as the first letter of a profound declaration of faith. Isus Christos, Theouios, Soter, Jesus Christ, Son of God, Savior. In a single, innocuous image, they could silently confess their belief in the divinity and salvific role of Christ. This code allowed them to identify one another safely. One believer might casually draw a single arc in the dirt. If the other person completed the fish with a second, opposing arc, they had found a brother or sister in Christ. If not, it was just a random mark, leaving the first believer safe from exposure. This covert nature was the key to its survival and spread throughout the Roman world, allowing the faith to grow in the catacombs and private homes without attracting the violent attention of the authorities. It was a symbol of resilience and quiet defiance. Yet, in a fascinating twist of historical irony, the fish symbol held deep significance long before the first Christian ever traced its shape. In the pagan world that surrounded them, fish were ancient and powerful symbols of fertility and abundance. The goddess Atargotes was worshipped throughout Syria and Mesopotamia as a fish-tailed deity of water and life. In ancient Rome, fish were associated with Venus, born from the sea foam, and were symbols of prosperity and good fortune. The early Christians, rather than inventing a completely new image, did something brilliantly strategic. They took a pre-existing, universally recognized symbol of life and plenty and infused it with a new, deeper theological meaning. They repurposed an old vessel to carry a new message, demonstrating how symbols are not created in a vacuum but are constantly evolving, absorbing new layers of significance while never fully shedding their old ones. This rich history makes the modern journey of the Ichthy's all the more compelling. For centuries after the era of persecution ended, the symbol receded in prominence, overshadowed by the more public and powerful cross. Its dramatic resurgence came in the 1970s and 80s, particularly in the United States, where it was adopted as a bold, public badge of identity by evangelical Christians. It sprouted on bumper stickers, keychains, and business cards, a modern declaration of faith that echoed its ancient use, but now openly and proudly. This revival, however, also led to new cultural conversations and even conflicts, such as the evolution of the Darwin fish, an adaptation featuring little legs and the name of the scientist inside, which some use as a statement on evolution and others see as a pointed satire. This modern dialogue around the symbol proves that its life as a cultural artifact is far from over. The Ichthy stands as a timeless testament to the human need for identity and community. It shows how a simple, elegant form can become a vessel for the most profound ideas, capable of offering protection in times of fear, declaring allegiance in times of freedom, and sparking conversation across the divides of belief and history. While the Valknut speaks to a warrior's fate and the Ichthy's to hidden faith, our next symbol carries the weight of a different kind of power altogether, one that is both creative and destructive, and unapologetically feminine. The Labrys, a formidable double-headed axe with a long, symmetrical blade on each side of a central haft, is an ancient implement that transcends its function as a tool or weapon to become a profound emblem of female divinity and authority. Its story begins in the deepest layers of European prehistory, with some of the most striking early examples discovered in the magnificent palace complexes of the Minoan civilization on Crete. Here, in a society that revered powerful goddesses, the Labrys is depicted in vivid frescoes and found as a ritual object in sacred caves. It was not an instrument of war, but a sacred symbol, likely used in ceremonies honoring the great mother goddess, a deity of nature, fertility, and the labyrinthine cycles of life and death. The very word labyrinth may derive from Labrys, suggesting the palace of Knossos itself, with its confusing, winding corridors, was known as the House of the Double Axe, a sacred dancing ground for a goddess whose power was as complex and dual-natured as the symbol itself. This connection to potent female divinity did not end with the Minoans. The Labrys was carried forward into classical Greek mythology, where it became the attribute of powerful, untamable female figures. Most notably, it was the weapon of choice for the legendary Amazons, those fierce warrior women who lived outside the confines of traditional Greek patriarchy. For them, the Labrys was a practical and symbolic tool of their independence and martial prowess, a weapon that could be wielded with devastating effect in either direction. It also appears in the hands of the goddess Demeter, the divine mother whose grief over the loss of her daughter Persephone could hold the entire world in a deadly winter, and whose joy at their reunion brought the spring. In this context, the Labrys represents the dual power of creation and destruction inherent in the natural world and in the divine feminine, the capacity to nurture life and the terrifying power to withdraw that sustenance. The two perfectly balanced blades embody this essential duality, one edge for cutting away the old to make way for the new, the other for protecting and defending what is sacred. For centuries, this powerful symbol lay dormant in the archaeological record, a relic of ancient beliefs. Its dramatic reawakening and reclamation began in the 1970s within the burgeoning feminist and lesbian separatist movements. These communities were actively searching for symbols of female strength and autonomy that existed outside of and predated patriarchal religious and social structures. The Labrys was a perfect fit. It was ancient, it was uniquely associated with powerful goddesses and independent warrior women, and it had no baggage from contemporary male-dominated institutions. It was excavated from the past and polished for a new purpose. The double blades now came to represent the dual struggle against sexism and homophobia, while the handle symbolized the unity and solidarity of the women who wielded this collective power. It became a bold, defiant emblem of lesbian identity and feminist strength, printed on newsletters, worn as jewelry, and flown on flags at pride marches, a silent but potent declaration of self-determination. This modern adoption transformed the Labrys from an archaeological curiosity into a living, breathing symbol of empowerment for marginalized communities. Its journey is a powerful example of how ancient icons can be rediscovered and infused with new meaning to serve contemporary struggles for identity and rights. It demonstrates that the power of a symbol is not fixed in time. It can be dormant for millennia, waiting for a generation that needs its unique language to articulate their own fight for visibility and power. The Labrys does not ask for permission or acceptance. It is a declaration. It speaks of a strength that is balanced and deliberate, capable of both nurturing a community and cutting down the barriers that oppose it, forever honoring the ancient, divine feminine power it was first forged to represent. Standing at the edge of the water with the majestic vermilion structure rising before you, you experience a moment of quiet awe, a palpable sense that you are about to cross into a different kind of space. This is the power of the Torii Gate, an iconic symbol of Japan that does far more than mark the entrance to a Shinto shrine. It serves as a profound spiritual threshold, a gateway that delineates the sacred from the mundane in the most elegant and intentional way. The word Torii itself translates to bird perch, a name that hints at its ancient, animistic origins, where birds were considered messengers of the kami, the sacred spirits or gods inherent in the Shinto faith. To pass under a Torii is to consciously step from the busy, profane world of everyday concerns into a purified realm where the kami reside, a place where nature itself is recognized as divine and worthy of the deepest respect. The most iconic visual of this transition is found at the Itsukushima Shrine, a UNESCO World Heritage Site seemingly floating on the waters of the Seto Inland Sea. Here, the Great Torii Gate stands offshore, and at high tide it appears to drift on the surface of the water, its reflection creating a perfect, symmetrical portal. This breathtaking placement is no architectural accident. It is a profound theological statement. The gate does not block the way but invites passage, framing the sacred island of Miyajima itself considered a god, and emphasizing that the entire natural landscape is the true shrine. The act of passing through the gate by boat or by walking across the exposed seabed at low tide becomes a slow, deliberate ritual of purification. With each step or each oar stroke, you are physically and mentally preparing to leave your worldly worries behind and enter a state of mindful reverence. The vibrant vermilion paint, often made from mercury sulfide, is not merely for dramatic visual effect. This specific color is believed in Shinto tradition to possess apotropaic qualities, the power to ward off evil spirits and malevolent forces. It acts as a protective barrier, ensuring that the sanctity of the inner precinct remains unspoiled, while its brilliance symbolizes the vitality and life-giving energy of the kami themselves. This concept of a sacred threshold is not unique to Japan, but the Torii Gate's elegant simplicity has allowed it to become a global icon of tranquility and mindful transition. Its clean, minimalist lines, two upright pillars supporting two horizontal crossbeams, the upper one often curved, have influenced architects and artists worldwide, appearing in garden designs, public art installations, and even corporate logos seeking to evoke a sense of peace, balance, and harmony. The universal resonance of the Torii lies in its function as a psychological marker. In our own lives, we constantly cross thresholds, both literal and metaphorical. The doorway of our home after a long day, the start of a meditation session, or the beginning of a creative endeavor. The Torii Gate reminds us to be conscious of these transitions, to create our own rituals for moving between different states of being. It encourages us to pause at the boundary, take a deliberate breath, and set an intention before we proceed, transforming an ordinary action into a mindful moment of respect and awareness. Ultimately, the enduring power of the Torii Gate is that it makes the invisible visible. It gives tangible form to the intangible boundary between the everyday and the extraordinary, between the noise of the world and the quiet space within. It teaches us that the sacred is not necessarily a distant heaven, but a quality of attention that can be cultivated anywhere, if only we take the time to mark the entrance and walk through with intention. It is a standing invitation to recognize the divine not just in grand temples, but in the beauty of a windswept island, the stillness of a forest, and the simple, profound act of stepping across a line with reverence. And now we encounter a symbol of such elegant complexity that it seems to capture the very essence of interconnection within its three graceful, looping arcs. The Triquetra, an ancient Celtic knot formed by a single, continuous line weaving around three identical vesica piscis shapes, is a masterpiece of symbolic minimalism. Its name, derived from the Latin for three-cornered, only hints at the profound layers of meaning held within its interlocking design. For the Celtic peoples who saw the sacred in the natural world all around them, the number 3 held immense power. The Triquetra was a visual representation of life's most fundamental triplicities, the three domains of land, sea, and sky, the three phases of the moon, and the three stages of life itself as maiden, mother, and crone. Its continuous, unbroken line was a powerful statement of eternity, a belief that these forces were not separate but part of an endless, cyclical flow of energy and existence, forever connected in a delicate and perfect balance. This deep, pre-Christian symbolism made the Triquetra a natural and compelling visual for early Christian monks in the British Isles, who were tasked with illuminating manuscripts like the famous Book of Kells. These scribes, working in a style known as insular art, were masters of synthesizing pagan artistic traditions with new Christian theology. They recognized in the Triquetra's 3-in-1 form a perfect metaphor for the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, three distinct entities that are simultaneously one divine being. By adopting and adapting this existing symbol, they created a theological bridge, using a familiar and respected image to communicate a complex new concept to a recently converted population. In these manuscripts, the Triquetra is often intricately woven around other Christian symbols, or used to decorate the initial letters of important passages, its endless knot serving as a visual reminder of God's eternal and inseparable nature. This act of cultural integration did not erase the symbol's older meanings but rather enriched it, adding a new layer of spiritual significance that would travel with it for centuries to come. In our modern era, the Triquetra has experienced a remarkable resurgence, propelled into popular culture by its prominent role in television and film, most notably as a central protective symbol in the series Charmed. This exposure introduced the ancient knot to a global audience, who are drawn to its aesthetic beauty and its aura of mystical history. It has become an immensely popular choice for jewelry and tattoos, often selected not for a specific religious belief, but for its more universal connotations of unity and protection. People wear it as a personal talisman representing the connection of mind, body, and spirit, or as a symbol of the unbreakable bonds within a family or among close friends. Its appeal lies in this beautiful ambiguity. It can be a deeply Christian symbol, a nod to Celtic pagan heritage, or simply a universal emblem of interconnectedness, all at the same time. The enduring power of the Triquetra, much like the symbols we've explored before it, lies in its perfect geometric harmony and its ability to hold multiple, profound truths within a simple, elegant form. It satisfies a deep human desire to see our complex world reflected in patterns that are both beautiful and meaningful. It teaches us that strength can be found in unity, that different elements can be woven together into a stronger whole, and that the most powerful forces in life are often those that are connected in an endless Chinese letter cycle of support and renewal. It is a timeless piece of wisdom rendered in a single, unbroken line, a silent promise that we are all part of a larger, intricately connected web. As we continue our journey through these timeless symbols, we now turn our attention to one of the most fundamental and universal forces that has ever captured the human imagination, the sun itself. And what better way to represent this celestial power than through the sun wheel, a radiant symbol that has spun its way across continents and millennia. At its core, the design is beautifully simple, a circle, often with a central point from which lines or spokes radiate outward like beams of light. This is not a complex abstraction. It is a direct and powerful evocation of the star we see every day, a visual echo of its life-giving rays reaching out to warm the earth. But this simple form holds a universe of meaning, representing not just the physical sun, but the very concepts of cosmic order, divine power, and the eternal cycles that govern all existence. The sun wheel appears in some of humanity's very first artistic expressions. Long before the written word, ancient peoples were carving versions of this symbol into stone. Prehistoric petroglyphs featuring sun wheels have been discovered across Europe, in the Americas, and in Asia, often positioned in locations that catch the first or last light of the day, transforming the rock face into a sacred solar calendar. For these early cultures, the daily journey of the sun was the greatest drama of their lives. Its rising brought light, warmth, and the ability to hunt and gather. Its setting brought cold, darkness, and danger. The sun wheel was a prayer etched in stone, a hopeful invocation to ensure the sun's return, and a marker of the solstices, those critical turning points of the year that dictated the timing of planting and harvest. It was a way to map the heavens and align their lives with the dependable, yet awe-inspiring, rhythm of the cosmos. This profound reverence for the sun's cycle led to the symbol's adaptation in countless religious and cultural contexts, each adding its own layer of interpretation while preserving the core meaning of light and life. In Hinduism, the concept of the chakra, a wheel or disk of spinning energy within the body, draws directly from this solar imagery. Each chakra is visualized as a spinning sun, radiating vitality and spiritual light, and the ultimate goal of yoga and meditation is to awaken the central sun-like energy known as Kundalini. Similarly, in Buddhism, the Dharma chakra, or wheel of law, has 8 spokes representing the Noble Eightfold Path, but its circular, radiant form unmistakably echoes the sun, symbolizing the illuminating light of the Buddha's teachings spreading across the world. Moving to Europe, the Celtic cross provides a stunning example of synthesis. Here, the ancient sun wheel, a pre-Christian symbol worshipped by the Celts, was seamlessly integrated into the new Christian faith. The cross of the crucifixion was superimposed over the circular sun wheel, creating a powerful new emblem that acknowledged Christ as the Sun of Righteousness, the new source of spiritual light and salvation, while still honoring the ancient, deeply ingrained reverence for the solar cycle that sustained physical life. This universal presence points to a simple, undeniable truth that every human civilization has understood in its bones: our utter dependence on the sun. It is the engine of all life on Earth, the reason crops grow, the regulator of our climate, and the ultimate source of energy for every living thing. The sun wheel, in all its variations, is an enduring expression of gratitude for this incredible gift. It is a symbol of celebration for the dawn that breaks after the long night, for the summer that follows winter, for the order that triumphs over chaos. It represents the divine power that early humans saw in the sky, a benevolent force that demanded respect and worship. Even in our modern world, with our scientific understanding of nuclear fusion and solar systems, the symbolic power of the sun wheel has not dimmed. We see it in the logos of energy companies and environmental groups, in the designs of national flags, and in the artwork of spiritual movements that seek to reconnect with nature. It remains a timeless shorthand for vitality, positivity, and enlightenment, a burst of visual energy that still makes us feel, on a primal level, the awe and gratitude that our ancestors felt when they looked to the sky and saw the great wheel of light turning, forever ensuring that life would go on. From the solid, grounding presence of the sun wheel, we now turn our attention to something seemingly fragile and ephemeral, yet possessing a symbolic weight that has lifted the human spirit for millennia. The feather, a simple and beautiful product of nature, has been imbued with profound meaning across countless cultures, consistently representing concepts of truth, purity, and the delicate bridge between the earthly and the divine. Its power lies in its paradoxical nature. It is incredibly lightweight, capable of being carried on the slightest breeze, yet it is also remarkably strong and resilient, structured with a complexity that allows a bird to defy gravity itself. This unique combination of delicacy and strength makes it the perfect metaphor for the human soul, something seemingly fragile, yet possessing an inherent resilience and a constant yearning to ascend, to transcend the mundane and touch something higher. Perhaps the most dramatic and well-known use of the feather is found in the elaborate funerary rituals of ancient Egypt, central to the concept of the final judgment. In the Hall of Two Truths, the heart of the deceased was weighed against the feather of Maat. Maat was the goddess of truth, justice, and cosmic order, and her feather, the shoe feather, represented everything that was right, balanced, and harmonious in the universe. This was not a simple test of weight, it was a profound spiritual assessment. If the heart, burdened with lies, guilt, and wrongdoing, was heavier than the feather, it was devoured by the monstrous Ammit, condemning the soul to oblivion. But if the heart was as light as the feather, meaning a life lived with integrity, truth, and in alignment with Maat, the soul was granted eternal life in the blissful field of reeds. Here, the feather is the ultimate symbol of ethical purity, a tangible measure of a moral life, where lightness of being is the highest spiritual achievement. This connection between feathers and honor is powerfully echoed, though in a very different form, in the traditions of many Native American cultures. Among the Plains tribes, eagle feathers were and remain the most sacred of objects. They were not given lightly. Each feather had to be earned through acts of courage, wisdom, or profound generosity. A warrior might receive a feather for a brave deed in battle, a leader for sound judgment that benefited the entire community. These feathers were then incorporated into elaborate headdresses, war bonnets, and ceremonial regalia. Far from being mere decoration, each feather told a story of valor and responsibility. The eagle itself, being the creature that flies highest and closest to the Creator, made its feathers the perfect conduit for prayer, carrying messages from the people up to the spirit world. Wearing these feathers was not a display of vanity, but a wearing of one's life story and a profound statement of spiritual connection and earned respect. The feather's symbolic journey extends deeply into the realm of faith as well. In Christian iconography, feathers are most commonly associated with angels, those divine messengers who act as intermediaries between heaven and earth. The depiction of angels with vast, powerful wings covered in white feathers reinforces their role as beings of purity, protection, and divine grace. The feather here becomes a symbol of virtue, hope, and the comforting presence of the divine watching over humanity. This theme is echoed in the widespread use of the quill pen throughout history. For centuries, the primary instrument for recording laws, literature, and sacred texts was a feather, meticulously sharpened into a nib. This intimately linked the physical object to the very act of conveying truth, knowledge, and wisdom from one generation to the next. The feather was the tool that gave light ideas a heavy, permanent form. In our modern context, the feather has been liberated from its specific religious and cultural rituals to become a more universal emblem of two powerful and deeply related concepts: freedom and integrity. The image of a single feather floating effortlessly on the wind has become a shorthand for liberation from oppression, from limitation, from the heavy burdens of life. It speaks to our desire to be unencumbered, to rise above our circumstances, and to move with grace and ease. Simultaneously, it retains its ancient link to truth and integrity. To say someone is as light as a feather is to attest to their honesty and good character. This dual symbolism makes the feather an endlessly popular motif in art, literature, and personal expression like tattoos, chosen by individuals as a personal reminder to live truthfully and to always strive for a lighter, freer, more elevated state of being. It is a symbol that beautifully captures our highest aspirations, to be anchored in truth, yet always ready to catch the wind and soar. While the feather symbolizes an ascent toward truth and freedom, our next symbol invites us on a different kind of journey, one that turns not upward but inward along a single, winding path that promises to lead us to our own center. The labyrinth is often mistaken for a maze, but this is a critical misunderstanding that obscures its true power. A maze is a puzzle designed to confuse with dead ends, forks, and tricks meant to challenge the intellect and trap the unwary. A labyrinth, in beautiful contrast, offers no such obstacles. It presents a single, universal path that winds back and forth, folding in on itself in a complex, yet utterly predetermined, route to the center and back out again. You cannot get lost in a labyrinth. Its challenge is not one of navigation, but of trust and surrender. The journey is the destination, and every step, even those that feel like they are taking you further from the goal, is an essential part of the circuitous route to finding yourself. This profound metaphor for life's path finds its most famous expression in the ancient Greek myth of the Minotaur. King Minos of Crete commissioned the genius architect Daedalus to build an inescapable complex to contain the monstrous half-man, half-bull born of his wife. The structure was so confusing that it was called the Labyrinth, and it served as a prison for both the beast and the Athenian youths sent as tribute. But the myth, like the symbol itself, operates on multiple levels. On the surface, it is a story of terror and a hero's quest, with Theseus using a ball of thread to retrace his steps. On a deeper, symbolic level, the Minotaur represents the raw, untamed, and monstrous aspects of our own unconscious, the hidden fears and primal instincts we keep locked away. The labyrinth is the confusing, winding path of our own psyche we must walk to confront that shadow self. Theseus's victory is not just over a monster, but an allegory for integrating our own darkness, using the thread of awareness, whether that be mindfulness, prayer, or intention, to find our way back to the light transformed by the encounter. This ancient tool for introspection was breathtakingly adopted and adapted by medieval Christians. In the 13th century, builders embedded a magnificent labyrinth into the floor of Chartres Cathedral in France. This was not a decorative flourish, it was a surrogate pilgrimage known as the Chemin de Jérusalem, the road to Jerusalem, for the faithful who could not undertake the dangerous, expensive journey to the Holy Land. Walking the 11-circuit path of the Chartres labyrinth on their knees in prayer became a powerful spiritual practice. The winding path to the center symbolized the long and difficult path of faith, the twists and turns of a human life lived under God's gaze. The center, a 6-petaled rosette, represented arrival in Jerusalem, or a moment of divine communion. The journey back out into the world then symbolized taking that renewed faith back into one's daily life. This practice of walking meditation provided a physical, bodily prayer, a way to move and pray simultaneously, quieting the chatter of the mind through the rhythmic focus of the body's motion. This incredible capacity to quiet the mind is why the labyrinth has found such a vibrant new life in our modern, stress-filled world. The simple act of walking its path has been shown to have remarkable therapeutic benefits, lowering cortisol levels, reducing anxiety, and promoting a state of calm mindfulness. Hospitals, prisons, parks, and wellness centers around the globe are installing them as tools for mental health. The process works because it effortlessly induces a meditative state. You don't need to think about where to go, you simply follow the path. This freedom from choice allows the thinking mind to relax. As you walk, the repetitive turns become a kind of kinetic mantra, the physical rhythm helping to release mental loops of worry and fear. People often report emerging from a labyrinth walk with a newfound sense of clarity, as if the physical act of navigating the circuitous path helped them untangle a knotted problem in their own lives. The labyrinth does not provide easy answers, but it creates the quiet mental space where answers can arise on their own. The universal and enduring appeal of the labyrinth lies in its flawless geometry, which so perfectly mirrors the human experience. Its path is a masterful illustration that life is not a straight line from point A to point B. Our journeys are full of unexpected turns, moments where we feel we are doubling back on ourselves or moving further away from our goals. The labyrinth teaches us that these apparent detours are not mistakes or wasted time. They are integral to the process. Every twist is necessary to prepare us for the center. It is a symbol of profound trust, assuring us that even when we cannot see the way forward, the path is still there, leading us inexorably toward our own core. It offers a powerful antidote to the modern obsession with efficiency and direct routes, reminding us that the most meaningful journeys are often the longest and most winding, and that true peace is found not in the frantic search for a way out, but in the mindful acceptance of the path itself. After the introspective journey of the labyrinth, we now arrive at a symbol that celebrates the glorious, tangible results of nature's cycles, a symbol of pure, overflowing abundance that speaks directly to our most fundamental needs and joys. The Cornucopia, that magnificent horn spilling forth with fruits, vegetables, grains, and flowers, is one of the most universally understood and heartwarming symbols of prosperity ever conceived. Its very image evokes a sense of festive generosity, a promise that there is not only enough but more than enough to share. Its story begins, like so many of our symbols, in the rich tapestry of Greek mythology, where its origin is as dramatic as it is symbolic. The most famous tale involves the mighty god Zeus, who as an infant was sheltered in a cave on the island of Crete to protect him from his father, Cronus, who devoured his children. The baby god was nourished by a magical goat named Amalthea, who provided him with her milk. In one version of the myth, the young Zeus, caught up in the exuberance of his own divine strength, accidentally broke off one of Amalthea's horns. Filled with remorse and gratitude, he bestowed upon the broken horn a powerful blessing. It would forever overflow with whatever its owner desired to eat or drink, becoming an eternal source of nourishment and plenty. This horn, the Cornucopia, was thus transformed from a reminder of a childhood accident into a divine instrument of endless generosity. This mythological origin story is packed with meaning. It establishes the Cornucopia not as a symbol of wealth hoarded or conquered, but as a gift born from gratitude and a sense of reciprocal care. It represents a broken thing made whole and miraculous, a testament to the idea that from accident or even trauma can come incredible abundance. The horn was quickly adopted as the primary attribute of several deities associated with the earth and its bounty. The goddess of the harvest, Demeter, was often shown holding it, as was her daughter Persephone, connecting the symbol directly to the cycles of growth, dormancy, and rebirth. The rustic god Plutus, the personification of wealth, carried it to signify that true wealth is rooted in the fertility of the land. It also became associated with Tyche, the goddess of fortune and prosperity for cities, and later with her Roman counterpart, Fortuna, suggesting that the good fortune of a community was directly tied to the abundance provided by the earth. The Cornucopia was never just about food. It was about the stability, security, and communal joy that comes from knowing that the basic needs of life are met in abundance. This powerful imagery of natural abundance proved so resonant that it effortlessly transcended its Greek origins to become a global emblem for harvest and thanksgiving. We see it in the traditions of autumn festivals across Europe and North America, where it is a centerpiece representing the successful gathering of crops before the leaner winter months. Its most prominent modern appearance is undoubtedly on the American holiday of Thanksgiving, where plastic or wicker cornucopias grace dining tables, brimming with artificial grapes, apples, and corn. This tradition directly links the modern celebration of gratitude and family to this ancient symbol of the earth's generosity, a visual prayer of thanks for the literal fruits of a year's labor. But the cornucopia's influence extends far beyond a single holiday. It appears in the art and architecture of countless cultures, in the logos of agricultural cooperatives and financial institutions hoping to project stability and growth, and even in the seals of states and nations like Idaho and Peru, proudly declaring their agricultural wealth and prosperous potential. What makes the cornucopia so enduringly powerful is its foundational message of hope and communal well-being. Unlike symbols of wealth that focus on coins, gold, or singular jewels, the cornucopia is filled with food, the most basic and essential form of wealth. It speaks to a prosperity that is meant to be shared, to nourish not just an individual but an entire family or community. It is a deeply democratic symbol. Everyone must eat, and a bountiful harvest benefits all. This is why it remains a potent emblem in a world still concerned with food security and sustainability. It represents an ideal, a hope for a world where no one knows hunger, and where the Earth's resources are managed wisely and distributed generously. The cornucopia does not promise endless luxury, but rather endless sustenance, which is a far more profound and universal form of wealth. It is a joyful, optimistic symbol that connects us to our most ancient rhythms of planting and reaping, of working with the earth, and then pausing to give thanks for its incredible, life-giving bounty. Soaring above the battlefields and palaces of history, a singular and formidable creature casts its gaze in two directions at once, a living emblem of imperial ambition and divine right. The double-headed eagle is not a symbol of subtlety. It is a statement of absolute power, an assertion of authority so vast that a single perspective could not possibly contain it. Its origins are as ancient as they are prestigious, with roots stretching back to the mighty Hittite Empire of the second millennium before the Common Era, where it may have represented the king's unifying power over disparate peoples. But it was the Byzantine Empire, the brilliant and resilient eastern remnant of Rome, that truly adopted the double-headed eagle as its own and set it on its course to become one of history's most enduring imperial logos. For the Byzantines, the two heads were a perfect representation of their emperor's dual sovereignty, his supreme authority over both the secular and religious realms, wielding the scepter of state in one hand and upholding the cross of the Orthodox Church in the other. This was the concept of Caesaropapism made manifest in a single, powerful image, a visual declaration that the empire was a unified body under one divinely appointed ruler, its gaze fixed steadfastly upon both heaven and earth. When the Byzantine Empire finally fell to the Ottomans in the 15th century, its symbols did not die with it. They were inherited, a powerful political and spiritual legacy claimed by those who saw themselves as the rightful successors to Rome's glory. In the West, the Holy Roman Empire, a complex patchwork of Germanic states, embraced the double-headed eagle to signify its own universal Christian dominion, a claim to temporal power that mirrored the spiritual authority of the Pope. The eagle's two heads now came to symbolize the empire's dual nature, balancing the power of the emperor with that of the prince-electors, or perhaps its theoretical sovereignty over both the Germanic and Italian parts of its domain. Meanwhile, in the East, a new power was rising with a profound sense of destiny. Through strategic marriage to the niece of the last Byzantine emperor, Ivan III of Moscow positioned himself as the legitimate heir to the Byzantine legacy, a concept that would crystallize into the powerful ideology of Moscow as the Third Rome. The double-headed eagle was a central pillar of this claim, adopted as the coat of arms of the Russian Tsardom and later the Russian Empire. It projected an image of immense power and continuity. The two heads now looked east and west, representing Russia's vast transcontinental identity as a Eurasian power, straddling two worlds and claiming mastery over both. The Russian eagle often held additional symbols. A scepter and an oar band was frequently depicted with a series of smaller shields on its breastplate, each representing a conquered kingdom or an integral region, visually layering its message of accumulated and centralized power. This incredible adaptability is the true genius of the double-headed eagle. It is a symbolic vessel capable of holding a multitude of complex and sometimes contradictory meanings, all while maintaining its core message of supreme authority. For some, the two heads represented the union of the imperial and papal powers. For others, it was the balance between the monarch and the state, or the fusion of executive and judicial authority. It could symbolize the empire's watchful dominion over both the Orient and the Occident, or its mastery over both the secular world and the spiritual realm. This chameleon-like quality allowed it to be seamlessly adopted by empires, kingdoms, and principalities from Serbia and Albania to the Seljuk Turks and the Habsburg monarchy, each imprinting their own unique interpretation onto its familiar form. It was never just a pretty picture, it was a sophisticated piece of political communication, a brand identity for empires that conveyed resilience, tradition, and an unshakable claim to legitimacy and control. In our modern world, the double-headed eagle has not faded into obscurity. It has been carefully curated and repurposed, finding a new life as a symbol of national identity and historical continuity. It features prominently on the coats of arms of several modern nations, including Albania, Serbia, and most notably Russia, which readopted the imperial eagle after the fall of the Soviet Union as a powerful link to its pre-revolutionary past. Beyond nations, it is used by countless institutions, churches, military units, universities, and fraternal organizations that wish to project an image of established authority, timeless wisdom, and unwavering strength. Its enduring appeal lies in its majestic and imposing form, but more deeply in its profound representation of a reconciled duality. It speaks to the human understanding that true power often lies in the balance of opposites, in the ability to hold two competing ideas or territories in a state of unified tension. It is a symbol that assures us that complexity can be managed, that vast domains can be governed, and that looking in two directions at once is not a sign of confusion, but the ultimate mark of a sovereign vision. While the double-headed eagle surveys the world with a sovereign's divided gaze, our next symbol invites us to trace a single, unbroken line, a path that flows with the serene and perpetual motion of a river. The Meander, often called the Greek key pattern, is a masterpiece of geometric simplicity that belies a universe of profound meaning. Imagine a continuous line folding back on itself in a series of right-angled turns, creating a repeating motif that could theoretically stretch into infinity without ever crossing or breaking. This elegant design is far more than a decorative border. It is a visual poem about the eternal, interconnected flow of existence itself. Its very name whispers of its origin, derived from the twisting, turning, and endlessly winding path of the Meander River in modern-day Turkey, a river so famously sinuous that it gave its name to any circuitous journey in any language. For the ancient Greeks, who saw the divine in the perfect logic of mathematics and the beauty of nature, this pattern was a way to capture the essence of that river's journey, and by extension, the journey of life, in a perfect, orderly form. This was not an isolated artistic whim. The Meander pattern became a cornerstone of classical Greek art and architecture, adorning the edges of everything from towering temples to delicate pottery. On a practical level, it served as a beautiful framing device, a border that contained and emphasized the central action of a painted vase or the sculpted frieze of a building. But its function was deeply symbolic. In a culture that prized balance, order, and rational thought, the meander's precise mathematical repetition represented the cosmic order of the universe, the unchanging laws that governed the movements of the planets and the fate of mortals. Its unbroken line was a powerful emblem of unity and infinity, suggesting the endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth, or the eternal flow of time and fate. To follow its path with the eye is to embark on a meditative journey, one that suggests that while the path of life may be full of twists and turns, it is all part of a grand, continuous, and ultimately harmonious design. The pattern's timeless appeal ensured it would never be confined to the ancient world. The Romans, great admirers and adopters of Greek culture, integrated the meander into their own mosaics and monuments, carrying its symbolism across their vast empire. Centuries later, during the neoclassical revival of the 18th and 19th centuries, the meander experienced a spectacular resurgence. Architects and designers, inspired by the excavations of Pompeii and a renewed passion for classical ideals, wove the Greek key into the very fabric of the era's aesthetics. It trimmed the furniture of Thomas Chippendale, bordered the walls of grand European estates, and defined the elegance of the American federal style. This was more than a fashion trend. It was a conscious use of symbolism. By incorporating the meander, designers were invoking the perceived wisdom, democracy, and artistic perfection of ancient Greece, embedding those ideals into the homes and objects of a new age. In our modern globalized world, the meander has been utterly liberated from its classical roots to become a universal language of design. Its powerful blend of structure and flow makes it endlessly adaptable. You will find it etched into the stainless steel of a luxury watch, printed on the hem of a high-fashion gown, and stamped into the leather of a designer handbag. Corporations frequently leverage its connotations of stability, continuity, and elegance for their logos, trusting that its familiar form subcommunicates reliability and a timeless quality. This widespread adoption speaks to a fundamental human attraction to patterns that are both complex and orderly. The meander is visually engaging without being chaotic. It is structured without being rigid. It satisfies our deep-seated desire for harmony and our innate understanding that life is not a straight line, but a beautiful, intricate, and continuous journey. It is a symbol that does not need to be explained to be felt, a silent promise that within all the twists and turns, there is a pattern, a purpose, and an unbroken connection to the endless flow of life itself. Yet even as the eagle surveys the world from above, our next symbol invites us to look downward, to the very ground we walk on, where a creature of profound duality silently moves through the undergrowth, embodying our deepest fears and highest aspirations in a single, slithering form. The serpent is perhaps the most paradoxically charged symbol in all of human history, a being that simultaneously represents the promise of eternal life and the venom of instant death, the purest wisdom and the most deceptive temptation. This deep ambivalence is not a modern confusion but a foundational thread woven into our oldest stories, reflecting our species' ancient and complicated relationship with the natural world, a relationship built on both terror and awe for the forces that lie just beyond our understanding. This duality is magnificently illustrated in the vibrant tapestry of Mesoamerican mythology through the figure of Quetzalcoatl, the magnificent feathered serpent. To the Aztecs and other cultures of the region, Quetzalcoatl was not a monster to be feared but a benevolent god of immense significance. His very form is a perfect symbolic union, the body of a serpent, representing the tangible, earthly realm and its cyclical nature, fused with the beautiful, green feathers of the Quetzal bird, symbolizing the heavens, the spirit, and the freedom of flight. He was the patron of priests, the inventor of books and the calendar, and the god of wind and rain who could bring forth the waters that nourished the crops. Most importantly, Quetzalcoatl was a cultural hero who brought knowledge to humanity, teaching them the arts of agriculture, mathematics, and astronomy. He represented renewal and rebirth, a force of civilizing order and enlightened creativity, showing that the serpent's power could be harnessed for profound good. Journey across the globe to the Indian subcontinent, and we find the serpent's transformative power turned inward, mapped onto the very architecture of the human soul. In Hindu tantric traditions, the concept of Kundalini describes a dormant, primal energy believed to reside like a coiled serpent at the base of the spine. This is not a literal snake but a metaphorical one, a reservoir of divine potential waiting to be awakened. Through dedicated spiritual practice, meditation, and yoga, this serpent energy is said to uncoil and rise up through the central channel of the body, piercing and energizing a series of psychic centers known as chakras. As it ascends, it unleashes expanded states of consciousness, profound insight, and ultimately, a union with the divine. The Kundalini serpent is thus the ultimate symbol of spiritual awakening and transformation, a journey from a state of spiritual sleep to one of enlightened liberation, proving that the serpent's most potent venom is also its most powerful medicine for the soul. The biological reality of the serpent provides the perfect, observable metaphor for this entire cycle of death and rebirth. Its most defining characteristic is its necessity to periodically shed its entire outer layer of skin, a process known as ectasis. To an ancient observer, this must have seemed like the most pure magic, a creature becoming visibly old and withered, only to slither out of its own body, leaving a perfect, translucent ghost of itself behind and emerging glistening, vibrant, and renewed. This powerful act of literal self-regeneration made the serpent a near-universal symbol for immortality, healing, and the promise of new life emerging from the old. It is the reason the serpent is entwined around the rod of Asclepius, the true symbol of medicine, representing the healer's power to help the patient shed illness and be restored to health. Yet, in the same breath, this same creature possesses a bite that can deliver agonizing death in minutes. This perfect encapsulation of both cure and kill, all within one being, cemented its role as the ultimate emblem of nature's dualistic power, a power that demands respect and holds the potential for both creation and destruction in perfect, terrifying balance. This inherent tension is what makes the serpent's story in the Western tradition so particularly potent. In the biblical book of Genesis, the serpent in the Garden of Eden is the embodiment of temptation, the cunning agent that brings about the fall of humanity from a state of innocent grace. It is the deceiver, the manipulator who weaponizes knowledge itself to disrupt paradise. This portrayal profoundly shaped the Western view of the serpent for centuries, casting it as a villain, a synonym for evil and betrayal. Yet, even within this narrative, the serpent is complex. It offers the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and in doing so, it gives humanity self-awareness, moral choice, and the catalyst for all of human experience for both its suffering and its triumphs. Is it purely a force of evil, or is it a necessary, if difficult, bringer of consciousness and progress? This very question lies at the heart of the symbol's enduring power. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that the same force that can poison us can also force us to grow, that the same knowledge that brings burden can also bring wisdom, and that our relationship with the mysteries of nature is not a simple battle between good and evil, but a continuous, challenging, and ultimately transformative dance with a power far greater than ourselves. While the serpent sheds its skin in the earthy realm, our gaze now lifts to the shadowy branches of the night, where another creature of potent duality perches in silence, its wide eyes holding secrets as old as the moon itself. The owl, with its haunting call and ghostly flight, has captivated the human imagination not for a single reason, but for a complex web of attributes that often pull in opposite directions, making it one of our most paradoxically charged symbols. In the Western tradition, our story begins in the sun-drenched world of ancient Greece, where the owl was inextricably linked to Athena, the formidable goddess of wisdom, strategic warfare, and crafts. This was no mere pet. The owl, specifically a little owl, was considered her sacred familiar, a living embodiment of her divine intellect. Its ability to see through the darkness represented the goddess's power to reveal hidden truths and illuminate the path of reason where others stumbled in ignorance. So revered was this connection that the city of Athens, named for its patron goddess, featured the owl prominently on its silver tetradrachm coins. These owls were the strong currency of the classical world, and to carry one in your purse was to carry a symbol of prosperity, wisdom, and the civilizing power of rational thought, directly linking the bird to the very foundations of democracy and enlightened society. Yet, travel across the Atlantic and immerse yourself in the diverse traditions of many Native American tribes, and you will find the owl's symbolism takes on a more nuanced and often ominous tone. Here, the owl is frequently seen as a messenger, but not always bearing good news. Its silent flight and eerie vocalizations connect it to the spirit world, making it a potent omen. For some nations, like the Apache, hearing an owl's hoot could signify an impending death, a warning from the ancestors. In Cherokee lore, the owl is a valued but fearsome purveyor of medicine and a punisher of wrongdoing. This view is not one of pure evil, but of immense respect for a creature that operates by the laws of the unseen realm. It is a scout for the dark and the unknown, a guardian of sacred secrets that are not meant for the uninitiated. Its wisdom is not the intellectual kind of Athena, but an ancient, intuitive knowledge of the cycles of life and death, demanding reverence and caution in equal measure. This cultural split reveals a fascinating pattern rooted in a simple, observable truth. The owl is a creature of the night. Darkness, for most of human history, was a time of vulnerability, danger, and the unknown. It was when malevolent spirits were thought to roam, and when the veil between the world of the living and the dead was at its thinnest. A creature that thrives in this realm, that can see what we cannot and move without a sound, will inevitably be viewed with a mixture of awe and dread. Its association with the moon, a celestial body linked to cycles, intuition, and the subconscious mind, further cements its role as a guide to the parts of existence that lie beyond the harsh, rational light of day. This connects the owl to the world of dreams, prophecy, and feminine mystery, often positioning it in opposition to the solar, logical, masculine energy of an eagle or a hawk. It is the patron of the seer, the witch, the artist, and the philosopher, all those who delve into the shadows to bring back insight. This very duality is what makes the owl such an enduring and adaptable symbol. Its image is claimed by institutions that wish to project erudition and wisdom, like universities and libraries, where it represents the light of knowledge piercing the darkness of ignorance. Simultaneously, it is embraced by subcultures and spiritual movements that identify with the mysterious, the Gothic, and the esoteric, where it symbolizes a connection to the occult and an acceptance of life's darker, more enigmatic aspects. It can be a comforting guide on a journey of self-discovery or a terrifying harbinger of doom, depending entirely on the story being told. This isn't a contradiction but a testament to the owl's profound symbolic power. It does not represent one single idea, but rather the entire spectrum of our relationship with the unknown. It forces us to confront the fact that true wisdom is not just about accumulating facts in the light, but also about having the courage to acknowledge, explore, and respect the beautiful, terrifying, and essential mysteries that flourish in the dark. After the owl's mysterious gaze into the shadows of intuition, we now turn to a symbol of radiant clarity, a spiritual roadmap offering not hidden secrets, but a brilliantly illuminated path open to all who wish to walk it. The Wheel of Dharma, or Dharma Chakra, stands as one of the most elegant and profound symbols in human history, not for what it conceals, but for what it so generously reveals. At its heart, it is a promise that liberation from suffering is not a mystical secret for a chosen few, but a practical, achievable reality, with each of its 8 spokes representing a step on this transformative journey. Its origin story is pivotal. Following his enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, the Buddha delivered his first sermon in a deer park at Sarnath. It was here that he is said to have first set in motion the wheel of the Dharma, presenting the core truths of existence, the 4 noble truths, and the practical means to transcend them, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. The wheel, therefore, is not a static logo. It is a dynamic event, a moment of cosmic turning, symbolizing the moment the Buddha's revolutionary teachings began to roll across the world, offering a way out of the endless cycle of suffering known as samsara. Every element of the wheel's design is a deliberate and meaningful choice, a masterpiece of sacred geometry. The hub at the center represents moral discipline, the essential core around which the entire spiritual life must turn. Without this central anchor of ethical conduct, the wheel simply cannot hold its form. The 8 spokes radiating outward are the 8 facets of the path: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These are not sequential steps but interdependent disciplines to be developed simultaneously, like strengthening 8 different muscles that together allow the body to move with grace and power. The circular rim that binds the spokes together signifies the power of meditative concentration, the mental focus that holds the entire practice intact and allows it to move forward. Some depictions show the wheel held by 2 majestic deer, a direct homage to the deer park at Sarnath, gently reminding us of the peaceful setting where this compassionate wisdom was first offered to the world. This profound symbolism of motion is absolutely key. The Dharma Chakra is always a wheel in motion, never a wheel at rest. It represents the dynamic, living quality of the Buddha's teachings. They are not a rigid dogma to be blindly believed, but a set of tools to be actively used, a path to be walked. It symbolizes the gradual turning of the practitioner's own mind away from ignorance and toward wisdom, away from craving and toward contentment. Furthermore, the wheel's motion reflects the cyclical nature of all conditioned existence, the endless rounds of birth, life, death, and rebirth, while simultaneously offering the very means to break free from that cycle. It is a paradox rendered in visual form. The thing that describes the problem also contains its solution. As the wheel turns, it generates momentum in the practitioner's life, rolling over and crushing the roots of delusion until the momentum itself carries one forward to liberation. While its roots are unshakably Buddhist, the universal appeal of the Dharmachakra's message has allowed it to travel far beyond temple walls and into the global lexicon of wellness and ethical living. Its adoption as a symbol on the national flag of India is a powerful testament to its cultural and spiritual importance, representing a nation's deep historical connection to the origins of these universal ideas. In the West, the wheel has been embraced by the mindfulness movement, not necessarily as a religious icon, but as a perfect emblem for the integrated life. The 8 spokes provide a beautifully balanced framework for modern self-improvement, addressing everything from our ethical behavior in the world, speech, action, livelihood to the cultivation of our inner mental landscape, effort, mindfulness, concentration. Therapists might use it as a model for holistic well-being, and corporate wellness programs might draw on its principles to reduce stress and promote ethical decision-making. The wheel's design inherently speaks of systems thinking, of understanding how different parts of our life are interconnected, and how working on one spoke inevitably strengthens all the others. Ultimately, the enduring power of the Dharmachakra lies in its breathtaking combination of simplicity and depth. It is a symbol that can be understood by a child yet contemplated for a lifetime. It offers no quick fixes but a comprehensive and compassionate guide to living a life of purpose, peace, and profound awareness. It does not point toward a distant heaven but lights the path to a transformed experience of the here and now. In a world that often feels fragmented and chaotic, the wheel stands as a timeless reminder of the possibility of wholeness, a promise that through our own efforts in cultivating wisdom, ethics, and mental discipline, we can find our center, gain traction, and move forward with grace and purpose on our own journey toward liberation. Rising from the mist-shrouded forests of the Pacific Northwest, these towering monuments of carved cedar are far more than just impressive works of art. They are the history books, heraldic crests, and spiritual testimonies of the indigenous peoples who created them. Totem poles are a powerful form of public storytelling, each one a unique and layered narrative etched into the very grain of the living tree. For nations like the Tlingit, Haida, Tsimshian, and Kwakwaka'wakwa, these poles serve multiple sacred purposes. Some are erected as memorial poles to honor a deceased chief or elder, ensuring their legacy and status are remembered by the community. Others function as heraldic poles, displaying the crests and lineages of a family or clan, much like a European coat of arms, but writ large upon the landscape. There are also welcome poles featuring a figure with outstretched arms, and shame poles, carved to publicly ridicule an individual or rival clan for failing to meet social obligations, serving as a lasting and very public record of a broken promise. The process of creating a totem pole is a community endeavor steeped in ritual and significance. A master carver who holds immense respect and knowledge passed down through generations is commissioned for the task. The selection of the right cedar tree is a solemn event, often involving prayers of thanks and apology to the spirit of the tree for taking its life. The carving itself can take months, with the carver and their apprentices transforming the massive log using traditional adzes, chisels, and knives. Once the carving is complete, the painting begins, using a traditional palette of black, red, and sometimes blue-green, all derived from natural materials like charcoal, ochre, and copper minerals. The raising of the pole is a momentous occasion, a potlatch ceremony that can last for days. It involves the entire community and invited guests from neighboring tribes, featuring feasting, dancing, and the formal recitation of the stories and histories that the pole depicts. The pole is then maneuvered into a deep hole, often with the help of ropes and a scaffolding system, as songs and prayers fill the air. This act is not just construction, it is the final act of bringing the story to life, of planting a family's history and a community's values firmly into the earth for all to see. To the untrained eye, the figures on a totem pole might seem like a random assortment of animals and beings stacked on top of one another. In reality, every single figure, its position, and its expression is meticulously chosen and rich with meaning. Common figures include the eagle, representing authority and prestige, the raven, a famed trickster and creator figure, the bear, symbolizing strength, healing, and motherhood, and the thunderbird, a mighty supernatural being whose wing beats create thunder and whose eyes flash lightning. There is also the often misunderstood figure of the watchman, typically carved at the very top, who serves as a guardian for the pole and the community. The order of the figures is not a hierarchy of importance, but is dictated by the specific story being told or the logical need to fit larger creatures at the base. A whale or bear might form the foundation, while a smaller human figure or frog could be positioned higher up. Each pole is a unique visual language, a crest that is the intellectual property of a specific family, and only they have the right to tell its full and true story. The journey of the totem pole from a specific cultural artifact to a global symbol is a complex story of resilience. From the late 19th to the mid-20th century, colonial policies in Canada and the United States actively suppressed indigenous cultural practices, including potlatches and the raising of totem poles. Many poles were forcibly taken from their communities and shipped to museums around the world, where they were often displayed without their proper stories or context, treated as curious artifacts of a so-called dying culture. This era of appropriation and theft saw totem poles reproduced as cheap souvenirs, their sacred images stripped of meaning for commercial gain. However, the last 50 years have witnessed a powerful and inspiring cultural renaissance. Indigenous communities have fought for the repatriation of their stolen poles and have passionately revived the art form. New generations of master carvers are once again teaching the skills, and new poles are being raised to commemorate modern events, celebrate reclaimed identity, and honor elders, blending traditional forms with contemporary stories. This resurgence has transformed the totem pole into an international emblem of indigenous resilience, artistic brilliance, and environmental stewardship. They stand today not as relics of a forgotten past, but as living proof of a culture that refused to be silenced. Their presence in museums now often comes with the direct involvement of the source communities, who provide the correct narratives and context. Furthermore, the totem pole's iconic form has been adopted in a spirit of solidarity by environmental movements, recognizing the deep ecological wisdom embedded within indigenous worldviews, the understanding that all beings, from the lowly frog to the mighty thunderbird, are interconnected and worthy of respect. A totem pole, therefore, is more than a sculpture. It is a sovereign entity. It is a declaration of existence, a repository of law, a grantor of identity, and a breathtakingly beautiful reminder that some stories are too important to be kept in books. They must be carved into giants and raised to the sky, where they can stand watch for generations. Imagine a shape that is neither a perfect circle nor a simple oval, but a luminous, pointed ellipse that seems to contain and radiate light from within. This is the mandala, a word derived from the Italian for almond, and it is one of the most exquisite and theologically rich symbols in the history of sacred art. Formed by the elegant intersection of two perfect circles, its geometry is a silent mathematical poem, representing the seamless fusion of two distinct realms into a single, harmonious whole. In the Christian tradition of the medieval period, this symbol became the ultimate visual shorthand for depicting a moment of divine revelation, a glimpse into a reality beyond our ordinary perception. When you see Christ or the Virgin Mary enveloped within this radiant almond-shaped aura in an icon or a stained glass window, you are not just looking at a halo, you are witnessing the artist's attempt to portray the very moment where heaven touches earth, where the infinite and eternal bleeds into the finite and temporal. The mandala is the liminal space where this miraculous intersection occurs, a visual gateway through which the divine momentarily steps into our world, its pointed ends suggesting a penetration and a purpose, a directed sacred energy that is both encompassing and focused. This profound symbolism is magnificently displayed in one of the most iconic images of Christian art, Christ in Majesty, or the Christ Pantocrator, found in the apses of great Byzantine churches and illuminating the pages of illuminated manuscripts. Here, Christ is not depicted as the suffering man on the cross, but as the cosmic ruler of all creation, seated on a throne within a vast, shimmering mandala. Often, this mandala is held aloft by angels, emphasizing that this vision of divine glory is being presented to humanity from a higher plane of existence. The mandala itself is frequently layered with color, graduating from darker hues on the outer edges to a brilliant, often gold-leafed center, creating the illusion that the figure of Christ is not merely surrounded by light, but is its very source. This is the essence of the symbol. It does not simply frame the holy figure, it manifests their divine nature. It shows them as the meeting point of all dualities, the resolution of all paradoxes, the living embodiment of the point where spirit and matter, creator and creation, time and eternity become one. Yet the power of this perfect geometric form was recognized far beyond the cathedrals of Europe. In a stunning parallel of spiritual intuition, Eastern traditions developed a nearly identical symbol with deeply resonant meanings. In Hindu and Buddhist iconography, we find the same almond-shaped aura, often surrounding deities in a state of profound meditation or enlightenment. Here, it is frequently called a prabha mandala or a body mandala, and it represents the radiant energy field of a fully realized being, a Buddha or a Bodhisattva who has achieved ultimate awakening. Just as in the Christian mandala, this is not decorative light, but a visualization of spiritual illumination itself, the blazing forth of inner wisdom and compassion that occurs when the boundaries of the ego dissolve and the individual consciousness merges with the universal. In the intricate art of Tibetan Buddhism, these mandalas can be incredibly complex, filled with intricate patterns and smaller deities, mapping out the entire cosmos within the sacred space defined by the overlapped circles. This independent emergence of the same symbol across vast cultural divides points to a fundamental human understanding, a shared recognition that the most profound spiritual experiences involve a sublime union of opposites, a transcendence of binary thinking that can be perfectly encapsulated by two circles becoming one luminous, almond-shaped whole. The enduring fascination with the mandala lies in this timeless geometric perfection and its boundless metaphorical depth. It is a symbol that effortlessly bridges the gap between the intuitive and the analytical, speaking to the mystic and the mathematician alike. Its form is a constant, gentle reminder that the most powerful truths are often found not in separation, but in synthesis. It challenges our tendency to see the world in stark contrasts of good and evil, sacred and profane, self and other, and instead offers a vision of harmonious integration. The mandala suggests that the divine is not a distant king on a faraway throne, but is present in the very intersection of realities, in the creative tension between opposing forces that gives birth to all meaning and beauty. It is an ancient and enduring answer to a deep and universal human yearning, the longing for connection, for a glimpse behind the veil of the ordinary, and for the assurance that our world and the next are not two separate places, but are forever intertwined in a delicate, luminous, and miraculous embrace. Lurking in the stonework of medieval cathedrals, carved into the wooden beams of old English pubs, and peering out from the pages of fantasy novels, the Green Man is a silent yet potent reminder of a truth that predates stone and mortar, that nature is not a separate realm to be conquered, but a living, breathing force of which we are an intrinsic part. This enigmatic face, crafted from leaves and vines that seem to sprout directly from its mouth, nose, and eyes, is far more than a decorative motif. It is one of Europe's most powerful and enduring symbols of the raw, untamable life force that animates the entire natural world. He is the very embodiment of the wild-finding voice in the heart of human civilization, a symbol of rebirth, the endless cycle of the seasons, and the profound, unbreakable bond between humanity and the environment from which we sprang. His origins are wonderfully mysterious, a tangled root system reaching back into pre-Christian Europe. While his name was coined by Lady Raglan in a 1939 article, the image itself is ancient. We find his essence in the Celtic god Cernunnos, the horned lord of the forest and the animals, seated in a meditative pose, a symbol of fertility, wealth, and the underworld. We hear his echo in the Greek tales of Pan, the god of the wild whose flute music could inspire both panic and ecstatic joy. He is the spirit of the Jack in the Green, a leafy figure who led May Day celebrations, representing the triumphant return of spring and the lush abundance of the coming summer. These pagan spirits were not worshipped in opposition to nature, but were seen as personifications of its awesome, generative power. The genius of the Green Man lies in how this deeply pagan symbol was absorbed into the very fabric of Christian architecture. Stonemasons, perhaps themselves still connected to the old ways, began carving his leafy visage into the capitals of columns, the bosses of ceilings, and the frames of doorways in churches and cathedrals across Britain, France, and Germany. In these holy spaces, he could be interpreted as a symbol of the resurrection and the promise of eternal life, or perhaps as a representation of the God of Genesis, present in every leaf and vine of his creation. But his watchful gaze from the shadows of a chapel also feels like a quiet, persistent whisper of the old gods, a reminder that the church itself was built from the bones of the earth, and that the divine could be found not only in scripture but in the rustling of every oak leaf. This duality is the source of his enduring power. The Green Man does not present a gentle, pastoral nature. His expression is often intense, sometimes even grimacing, as if the force of life emerging from him is almost too powerful to contain. Leaves and vines spill from his mouth, suggesting that nature itself is his speech, that his wisdom is the silent, slow-growing knowledge of the forest. He represents the concept of viriditas, a medieval Latin term for greenness or the spiritual vitality of the natural world. He is the life force that pushes through the cracked pavement, that reclaims abandoned places, that cycles tirelessly through spring, summer, autumn, and winter in an endless dance of death and rebirth. He symbolizes the idea that this same viriditas flows through us, that we are not separate from nature, but are walking, talking expressions of it, our own breath part of the same great cycle that moves the winds and fuels the growth of every plant. In our modern era, as we face the profound consequences of having forgotten this interconnection, the Green Man has experienced a powerful resurgence. He has been enthusiastically adopted as a central figure in modern eco-spirituality, neo-paganism, and the environmental movement. He appears on the signs of organic pubs and eco-friendly shops, in the artwork of fantasy and nature writers, and as a popular subject for garden sculptures. He has become an icon for a growing desire to reconnect with the natural world, to remember our place within the ecosystem rather than as its masters. He represents a deep, ecological consciousness that recognizes the intelligence and inherent value of the wild world. His image serves as a rallying point for those who seek to live in greater harmony with the earth, advocating for sustainability, conservation, and a reverence for the intricate web of life that sustains us all. He is no longer just a curious artifact from a medieval church. He is a relevant and urgent symbol for our time, a leafy, breathing call to remember that we are nature too, and that our survival and spiritual fulfillment depend not on dominating the green world, but on listening to the ancient wisdom that continues to whisper from the stone and sprout, ever resilient, from the mouth of the green man. Now, let's shift our focus from the silent, watchful gaze of the green man to a symbol that fills the air with joyful, purposeful sound, an instrument designed not just for music, but for moving the very fabric of the cosmos. Imagine the vibrant scene, a sun-drenched temple courtyard in ancient Egypt, the air thick with incense and devotion. Through the crowd, a procession of priestesses moves with graceful purpose, and in their hands they carry not blades or scrolls, but a beautifully crafted, U-shaped instrument adorned with metal discs. As they shake it, the courtyard fills not with a melody, but with a distinctive, shimmering rustle, a sound like falling rain or the gentle clatter of papyrus reeds in the wind. This is the sistrum, and its sound was considered far more than mere entertainment. It was a sacred technology, a tool believed to be as essential to pleasing the gods as any prayer or offering. The design of the sistrum is a masterpiece of symbolic engineering. Its looped frame, often topped with the carved head of the goddess Hathor, the deity of music, joy, and motherhood, represented the horizon, the cyclical nature of life and the cosmos. The crossbars that spanned this frame held loose metal discs or rings that slid back and forth to create that iconic, jingling rustle. But this was not random noise. It was intentionally designed to produce a sound that was both rhythmic and chaotic, a sonic representation of the primeval waters of none from which all creation emerged. This specific timbre was believed to be uniquely pleasing to the deities, particularly to the great goddesses like Hathor and Isis. In the intricate mythology of Egypt, the god Ra had once grown old and despondent, withdrawing from the world and plunging it into shadow. It was Hathor who, through her wild, ecstatic dance and the shaking of her sistrum, pierced his melancholy, drove away his apathy, and restored his vitality, thereby restoring light and order to the world. Thus, the sistrum's sound became intrinsically linked to the maintenance of Mat, the fundamental order of the universe, and the driving away of Isfet, or chaos. Its rustle was a sonic shield against negative forces, a way to purify a sacred space and invite the benevolent presence of the divine. This powerful association made the sistrum a primary attribute of some of the most revered feminine divinities in the ancient world. The goddess Isis, in her role as the great magician and mother, was frequently depicted holding the instrument, using its sound as part of her potent spells to protect the dead and ensure their safe rebirth. When her worship spread across the Mediterranean, carried by Greek and Roman admirers, the sistrum traveled with her, becoming an instantly recognizable symbol of her cult. The instrument's connection to feminine power was so strong that its players were almost exclusively women, particularly priestesses who served these powerful goddesses. In their hands, the sistrum was not just an instrument, it was an implement of office, a key that unlocked divine favor and sustained the harmony of the community. Its sound marked moments of high celebration, of ecstatic worship, and of solemn ritual, weaving a sonic tapestry that connected every participant to the rhythm of the divine. While the vibrant cults of Isis and Hathor eventually faded, the symbolic power of the sistrum did not entirely vanish. Its distinctive shape and its enduring link to sacred music found a new, surprising home within the rituals of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, one of the oldest branches of Christianity in the world. Here, the Tsenetzel, a direct descendant of the ancient Egyptian sistrum, is still used by clergy during liturgical ceremonies. Its soft, metallic shimmer accompanies prayers and hymns, a continuous, ancient thread connecting modern Christian worship to the oldest sonic traditions of the Nile Valley. This remarkable preservation is a testament to the instrument's profound and timeless function to create a sacred atmosphere through sound. In our contemporary world, where music is often background noise or a solitary experience through headphones, the sistrum offers a powerful reminder of music's original, communal, and spiritual role. It calls us back to a time when sound was not a passive commodity but an active, participatory force. It was a means of collective ecstasy, a way for an entire community to raise its voice, or its instruments, in unison, to literally shake the air together in a shared expression of joy, reverence, and purification. The sistrum's legacy is an invitation to remember that music, at its oldest and most essential, is a bridge. It is a vibration that can calm a troubled heart, energize a weary spirit, and connect a room full of individuals into a single, harmonious body, momentarily touching something greater than themselves. It is the sound of joy itself, made manifest, and a timeless echo of our human desire to reach for the divine with every sense we possess. Now, imagine the sky above ancient Greece splitting apart with a deafening crack, a blinding flash of light that is both terrifying and awe-inspiring. This is the domain of the thunderbolt, a symbol that captures humanity's primal fear and profound respect for the raw, untamable power of nature. In the hands of Zeus, the king of the Greek gods, the thunderbolt was far more than a weapon. It was the ultimate symbol of his sovereign authority, a tool of divine justice that could strike down any challenger, mortal or immortal, with instantaneous and absolute force. The myths tell us these thunderbolts were forged for him by the Cyclopes, the master smiths, making them artifacts of immense creative and destructive potential. When Zeus hurled a thunderbolt, it was an event that reshaped the world. It could cleave mountains, ignite forests, and annihilate entire armies in a single, spectacular instant. This was not random violence. It was the embodiment of decisive, final judgment, a dramatic intervention from on high that restored order by obliterating whatever threatened it. The thunderbolt was the exclamation point at the end of a divine sentence, a terrifying reminder that the gods were in charge and their will was as immediate and unstoppable as a force of nature itself. This potent symbolism of supreme power and sudden transformation was not confined to the Mediterranean. Journey across the world to ancient India, and we find a remarkably similar figure in Indra, the king of the Hindu Devas and the god of rain, storms, and war. His weapon of choice was the Vajra, a word that translates to both thunderbolt and diamond. This is a crucial and beautiful duality. The Vajra represents not just the shattering force of a lightning strike, but also the unbreakable, adamantine nature of enlightened truth and spiritual power. In artistic depictions, the Vajra is often shown as a short, metal club with spherical ends, but its essence is that of a lightning bolt, a concentrated beam of irresistible energy. Indra wielded the Vajra to fight the forces of chaos, most famously the serpentine demon Vritra, who had hoarded all the world's water and caused a terrible drought. With a mighty blow from his thunderbolt, Indra shattered the demon's coils, releasing the life-giving waters and freeing the world from stagnation. Here, the thunderbolt is not merely a tool of destruction. It is an instrument of liberation, a catalyst that breaks apart obstacles, both physical and spiritual, to allow for growth, abundance, and the free flow of energy. And of course, we cannot speak of thunderous divine weapons without mentioning the most famous hammer in all of mythology. While Thor's Mjolnir from Norse tradition is not a thrown lightning bolt per se, it is absolutely a conceptual cousin, embodying the exact same cluster of ideas. Forged by dwarven masters, this short-handled hammer was the weapon of the thunder god, and its strike was accompanied by the roar of thunder and the flash of lightning. When Thor swung Mjolnir, he protected both gods and humans from the giants who represented chaos and destruction. The hammer was a symbol of protection, consecration, and hallowing. It was used to bless marriages, births, and funerals, linking it to major life changes and transitions. Like the thunderbolt, Mjolnir's power was twofold. It could destroy with terrifying force, but it could also protect and sanctify, making it a comprehensive symbol of divine power applied to the human world. The parallels between Zeus's thunderbolt, Indra's Vajra, and Thor's hammer are too striking to be coincidence. They represent a universal human response to the most dramatic and powerful natural phenomenon we can witness, the electrical storm. Cultures with no possible contact with each other all looked to the sky, felt the same awe and terror, and created stories of a supreme deity who wielded that very power to enforce order, deliver justice, and remind humanity of forces far greater than themselves. This ancient, cross-cultural fascination with the raw, decisive energy of the thunderbolt has ensured its enduring relevance in our modern world, though its context has dramatically shifted. The symbol has been eagerly adopted by military organizations for centuries, appearing on insignia, aircraft, and unit patches to convey attributes like speed, shock, and overwhelming force, the modern equivalent of a decisive strike from the heavens. In the realm of popular culture, the thunderbolt has become a visual shorthand for super speed and electrifying power, most famously emblazoned on the chest of the Flash in DC comics and films. It signifies not just velocity, but the transformative, kinetic energy of a hero. Perhaps its most poignant modern adaptation, however, is its use by groups like the Electric Light Orchestra or on the cover of the iconic album by the band AC/DC. Here, the thunderbolt represents a different kind of raw power, the electrifying energy of rock and roll itself, a force that can shock, energize, and transform an audience in an instant. The thunderbolt's journey from the hand of an angry god to the logo on an amplifier is a testament to its incredible symbolic flexibility. It continues to resonate because it captures the essence of a sudden, irreversible, and dramatic event, whether it's a brilliant idea that strikes like lightning, a life-changing moment that arrives without warning, or the raw, untamable power of nature that reminds us we are not ultimately in control. It is the ultimate symbol of the moment everything changes in a flash. While the thunderbolt embodies a power that is raw, immediate, and decisively transformative, our next symbol invites us into a realm of a different kind of magic altogether, one not of force but of elusive grace and transcendent purity. The unicorn stands alone in the forest of mythology, a creature so potent in its symbolism that its single, spiraled horn seems to pierce through the veil of the ordinary, offering a glimpse of a world where innocence is a tangible force and wonder is a living thing. Its origins are as mysteriously widespread as the creature itself, appearing independently in the ancient texts and art of cultures that could never have exchanged such an idea. In the 4th century before the Common Era, the Greek physician Ctesias, while serving in the Persian court, recorded tales from travelers of a magnificent wild ass in India, swift and powerful, with a single, multicolored horn on its forehead, believed to have the power to neutralize poisons. This account, likely a garbled description of the Indian rhinoceros, planted the seed in the European imagination. But this was not a beast of burden or a simple oddity. It was described with a sense of awe, its horn a coveted prize for kings who feared assassination by poison, making the unicorn from its very first mention an emblem of both lethal power and life-saving purity. This duality was masterfully absorbed and reinterpreted by medieval Christian Europe, where the unicorn's narrative was transformed into one of the most beautiful and complex allegories of the faith. Here, the unicorn became a powerful symbol for Christ himself. Its wild and untamable nature represented the divine nature of Christ that could not be captured by ordinary means. The famous motif of the unicorn hunt, where only a pure virgin maiden could lure the magnificent beast to lay its head in her lap, allowing hunters to capture it, was seen as a direct parallel to the Incarnation the moment the divine Christ, through the purity of the Virgin Mary, entered the earthly realm and became vulnerable to the suffering of the cross. Tapestries woven with this scene, such as the breathtaking series known as the Hunt of the Unicorn, were not mere decorations for castles. They were rich theological texts in thread, depicting the passion, death, and resurrection of Christ through the pursuit, capture, and eventual revival of the magical creature. In this context, the unicorn's horn retained its ancient association as an antidote to poison, now symbolizing Christ's power to purify the sinful soul from the venom of original sin. Yet journey to the other side of the world, and you find a creature of startling similarity carrying a completely different, yet equally profound set of meanings. In Chinese mythology, the Qilin is a chimerical creature often translated as the Chinese unicorn, though its form is more complex, sometimes depicted with one or two horns, with the body of a deer, the tail of an ox, and the scales of a fish. Unlike its Western counterpart, the Qilin is not a creature to be hunted but a benevolent and supremely auspicious omen. Its appearance was said to herald the birth or death of a great sage or ruler, most famously prophesying the birth of the philosopher Confucius. The Qilin treads so gently that it does not even bend a blade of grass beneath its feet, and it is so pure that it cannot harm a single living insect. It represents wisdom, compassion, and the arrival of a just and peaceful reign. It is a symbol of perfect good fortune, a divine messenger that appears only in times of immense peace and prosperity, or to mark a moment of cosmic significance. This parallel development of a single-horned, magical, and benevolent creature in two completely separate cultures points to a universal human longing for a sign of hope, a tangible manifestation of virtue and divine favor in our world. The unicorn's journey into the modern era is a tale of its incredible adaptability. During the Renaissance, it shed some of its heavy religious symbolism and became a potent symbol in secular heraldry, representing unparalleled virtue, chaste love, and rare nobility. Its image was emblazoned on the royal coats of arms of Scotland and England, signaling the monarch's purity of intention and justice. But its true modern conquest began with its adoption into the world of childhood fantasy and commercial culture. The 20th century saw the unicorn transformed into a glittering icon of pop art, fantasy literature, and animation, from the poignant and tragic creature in Peter S. Beagle's The Last Unicorn to the colorful, joyful My Little Pony franchise. This shift could have diminished its power, reducing it to a mere cartoon, but instead it democratized its magic. The unicorn became accessible, a symbol of individuality, uniqueness, and the magic inherent in being different. Its rainbow-hued modern incarnation celebrates creativity and the courage to stand out, making it a powerful emblem for outsiders, dreamers, and anyone who believes in a reality more wonderful than the one presented to them. This enduring cross-cultural fascination with the unicorn in all its forms ultimately speaks to a deep and abiding human need for the miraculous. It is not a symbol of power we can wield, but of a grace we can only witness. It represents that which is rare, precious, and almost impossibly good in a world often dominated by the mundane and the cynical. The unicorn is the embodiment of a hope that there is still beauty beyond our grasp, wisdom in the wild places, and a purity of spirit that can, even if only for a moment, make itself seen. It captivates us because it affirms our deepest intuition that the world holds more mystery than logic can explain, and that the pursuit of that wonder is a pursuit worth a lifetime. Isolated in the vast expanse of the South Pacific, over 2,000 miles from the nearest inhabited shore, lies one of the most remote and enigmatic places on Earth, Rapa Nui, or Easter Island. And standing sentinel over this lonely landscape are the Moai, nearly 900 stone giants whose silent gaze has captivated and mystified the world for centuries. These are not merely statues. They are the profound and powerful embodiment of the Rapa Nui belief system, a physical manifestation of spirit and authority that connects the living to the sacred realm of the dead. Each Moai was far more than a piece of art. It was a repository of mana or spiritual power, believed to be activated upon completion. When a master carver and his team finished their work, they were not just shaping rock, they were creating a vessel. These monumental figures, called Eringa Ora, which literally translates to living faces, were commissioned by powerful clan leaders to honor their distinguished ancestors. Once erected on a ceremonial platform known as an ahu, the Moai did not represent a generic god, but a specific, named forefather. Its presence was meant to draw upon that ancestor's spirit, harnessing their continued influence to provide protection, fertility, and prosperity for the entire village that stretched out before it. This is the crucial reason why the vast majority of these colossal heads and torsos face inland, their backs to the ocean. They are not looking out for invaders or visitors. They are watching over their descendants, their stone eyes forever fixed on the community, ensuring the continuity of life and the blessings of the past for generations to come. The sheer scale of their creation is a staggering testament to human ingenuity and determination. The Rapa Nui people quarried almost all of the Moai from a single volcanic crater, Ronoroku, which served as a vast, open-air workshop for half a millennium. The compressed volcanic ash or tuff of the crater's slopes was relatively soft and easier to carve, yet durable enough to withstand the elements. Using only stone hand picks called toki, teams of master craftsmen would meticulously chip away at the living rock, first freeing the front of the statue before undercutting it and painstakingly carving the details of the back, which often included intricate designs that are thought to represent clan markings. The most awe-inspiring aspect of this process is that the carvers worked on a massive scale without the ability to step back and view their progress from a distance. They operated on faith, skill, and a deeply ingrained cultural blueprint passed down through generations. Once freed from the bedrock, the finished Moai, which could weigh up to 80 tons and stand over 30 feet tall, had to be transported across miles of rugged, hilly terrain to its final coastal ahu. How they achieved this remains one of archaeology's greatest and most hotly debated puzzles. The romantic but now largely dismissed theory proposed by researcher Thor Heyerdahl involved entire villages lying the statues down and pulling them on log rollers. More recent experiments, however, suggest a far more dynamic and fascinating method, that the Rapa Nui walked the Moai to their platforms. By using a system of ropes and a coordinated rocking motion, teams could have maneuvered the giants upright in a shuffling, swaggering gait that truly would have made it appear as if the ancestors themselves were walking across the island, a sight that must have been utterly breathtaking and spiritually electrifying for the entire community. The global fascination with the Moai, however, is inextricably linked to a darker, more cautionary chapter in their history. The most pervasive narrative surrounding Easter Island for decades was one of ecological suicide, a story that the Rapa Nui people's obsession with statue building led them to cut down every last palm tree on the island to use as rollers and levers, triggering catastrophic soil erosion, the collapse of their agricultural society, and a descent into warfare, cannibalism, and population collapse. This tale, popularized by researchers like Jared Diamond, framed the Moai as stone monuments to human folly, tragic symbols of a culture that literally worked itself to extinction for a pointless religious competition. While this is a compelling and dramatic story, modern archaeology and a closer reading of the oral histories told by the Rapa Nui people themselves are painting a much more complex and nuanced picture. Evidence now suggests that the island's deforestation was a gradual process, exacerbated by the arrival of the Polynesian rat, which ate tree seeds, and not solely the fault of reckless statue transport. Furthermore, the idea of a sudden, violent societal collapse is being challenged. It appears that the Rapa Nui people were remarkably resilient, adapting to their changing environment by building sophisticated rock gardens for agriculture and developing new technologies. The toppling of the Moai, which were almost all deliberately thrown down from their platforms, likely occurred not during a frenzied civil war, but later, as a result of profound cultural and spiritual upheaval following European contact, which brought disease, slave raiding, and the shattering of the old belief systems that gave the statues their meaning. This evolution of their story makes the Moai even more powerful symbols today. They are no longer just mysterious artifacts of a lost world. They are a profound lesson in cultural perception and resilience. They represent the dangers of a single story, of how a complex civilization can be reduced to a simple parable of ecological disaster by outside observers. For the Rapa Nui people who have proudly maintained their cultural identity against immense odds, the Moai are a source of immense pride and a direct link to their formidable ancestors. In recent decades, there has been a powerful movement to re-erect the toppled statues, a project that is as much about cultural revitalization as it is about archaeology. Seeing a Moai standing upright on its who once more is not just a tourist attraction, it is a reclamation of history, a reactivation of ancestral connection, and a bold statement that the Rapa Nui culture is very much alive. Their global recognition, from tiny replicas in souvenir shops to their ubiquitous presence in popular culture, underscores a universal human fascination with mystery and achievement. They stand as eternal reminders of the incredible things humans can create with nothing but determination, faith, and stone, and of the enduring power of a culture to watch over its people, even from the most isolated corner of the world. Now let us plunge into the depths where the power to create a life-giving spring or summon a world-ending flood is held in the grasp of a single formidable instrument. The trident, with its 3 formidable prongs, is far more than a fisherman's tool or a ceremonial scepter. It is one of mythology's most potent symbols of absolute sovereignty over the most unpredictable and essential of elements, water itself. In the turbulent realm of Greek mythology, this 3-pronged spear is the unmistakable attribute of Poseidon, the brooding and tempestuous god of the seas. When he strikes the earth with its points, the very ground shudders and saltwater springs burst forth. When he raises it high, he can stir the ocean into a frenzy of towering waves and devastating storms, capable of smashing entire fleets to splinters. For the ancient Greeks, a seafaring people whose survival and prosperity were utterly dependent on the capricious moods of the Mediterranean, Poseidon's trident was the ultimate representation of a terrifying and awesome truth, that the same waters that provided passage for trade and bounty from fishing could, in an instant, become an instrument of utter annihilation. His power was not to be petitioned lightly. It demanded respect, sacrifice, and a profound acknowledgement of nature's dual capacity to nurture and to destroy. This profound symbolism of controlled, elemental power finds a stunning parallel on the other side of the world, in the rich tapestry of Hindu tradition. Here, the trident, or Trishula, is wielded by the great god Shiva, the lord of destruction and transformation. While Poseidon's domain is the physical sea, Shiva's Trishula governs the metaphysical oceans of existence. Its three sharp points are rich with philosophical meaning, representing the holy trinity of creation, preservation, and destruction, the fundamental cycles that govern all of reality. They also symbolize the three gunas, or qualities of nature: purity, passion, and ignorance, which Shiva transcends. Furthermore, the Trishula is said to destroy the three types of misery: spiritual, mental, and physical. When Shiva plunges his trident into the earth, it is not to release water, but to mark the point where the finite world of illusion is pierced by infinite consciousness. In his hands, the weapon becomes a tool for annihilating the ego, cutting through ignorance and facilitating the soul's liberation. The parallel between Poseidon's and Shiva's tridents is breathtaking. Both are instruments of immense power wielded by paramount deities. Both control a form of primal, flowing energy, whether the literal ocean or the cyclical flow of time and karma, and both embody the essential, and often frightening, balance between the forces that build our world and the forces that inevitably wash it away to make room for the new. This formidable shape, radiating such clear and potent authority, has naturally been adopted by human societies seeking to project those same qualities. The trident appears on the national emblem of Ukraine, a country whose plains are watered by great rivers, linking its identity to concepts of strength and sovereignty. It was also a key symbol of the British Raj, featured on colonial-era maps and insignia, a deliberate visual claim to naval mastery and imperial control over the world's sea lanes. Beyond politics, the trident's form is a staple in ceremonial magic and spiritual practices, where it is used to cast circles, invoke elemental energies, or symbolically spear and banish negative influences. Its geometric power is undeniable. The central prong represents a singular, focused will or a central axis of power, while the two outer prongs provide balance and stability, creating a symbol that is both an aggressive weapon and a perfectly balanced emblem of order. This balance is the trident's deepest lesson. It does not represent destruction for its own sake, but destruction as a necessary part of a greater cycle. A violent storm clears the air and brings rain that nourishes the land. The destruction of outdated ideas makes way for new wisdom. The trident acknowledges that true mastery over any force, be it the sea, the mind, or a kingdom, requires an understanding of this delicate, dynamic equilibrium. It is a symbol for the mature recognition that creation and destruction are not opposites, but partners in an eternal, cosmic dance, and that wielding great power is ultimately about navigating the profound responsibility that comes with holding both in your hands. And now we encounter a figure carved not just from stone, but from the very essence of mystery itself, a majestic hybrid of beast and human that has guarded the threshold of understanding for millennia. The Sphinx, with the powerful, recumbent body of a lion and the contemplative head of a human, is a masterpiece of symbolic fusion, a creature designed by ancient minds to represent the ultimate union of physical force and intellectual might. Its most famous and colossal incarnation, the Great Sphinx of Giza, has stared out across the Egyptian desert for over 4,500 years, its stone eyes witnessing the rise and fall of dynasties, its features weathered by countless desert sands, yet its enigmatic expression remaining utterly inscrutable. This is not a statue built for mere decoration or simple worship. It is a monumental guardian, positioned with deliberate purpose on the Giza Plateau to protect the sacred pyramid tombs of the pharaohs behind it. In the Egyptian worldview, the lion was the ultimate symbol of royal power and protective strength, while the human head, most Egyptologists believe it bears the likeness of the pharaoh Khafre, represented the divine intelligence and authority of the ruler. The Sphinx was the perfect synthesis of these ideas, a divine sentinel that used its immense physical presence to ward off evil and its discerning, knowing gaze to oversee the sacred landscape, ensuring the eternal sleep of the kings and the cosmic order they represented in death. Yet the power of this composite form was so compelling that it transcended its Egyptian origins, traveling across the Mediterranean to be reimagined in the vibrant world of Greek mythology. Here, the Sphinx underwent a fascinating transformation. While still a guardian, her role became far more active and sinister. In the Greek tradition, the Sphinx was a female monster, often described as having the wings of an eagle, sent by the gods to punish the city of Thebes for a past transgression. She did not merely stand watch, she actively preyed upon the populace, perching on a high rock outside the city gates and stopping all travelers with a devious and fatal riddle. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? She would demand. Those who failed to answer correctly were promptly strangled and devoured, their lives forfeit to her insatiable hunger for human folly. This version of the Sphinx represents a different facet of the unknown, not a protective mystery but a predatory one. She embodies the deadly consequence of ignorance, the idea that failing to seek knowledge and understand the fundamental truths of existence can have fatal results. Her defeat came not from a warrior's strength but from the intellect of the hero Oedipus, who correctly identified the answer as man, who crawls as a baby, walks upright in adulthood, and uses a cane in old age. With the riddle solved, the Sphinx's power was broken, and she threw herself from her rock to her death, freeing Thebes from her terror. This story establishes the Sphinx as a crucible for wisdom. To pass her test is to prove one's understanding of the human condition itself. This theme of the Sphinx as a keeper of profound life-or-death secrets is not confined to the Mediterranean world. Journey to the temples of South and Southeast Asia, and you will find another iteration of this mythical guardian. In the Hindu and Buddhist traditions, statues of Purushamriga, or human beasts, often flank the entrance to temples, serving as protective figures. While not always called sphinxes, they share the same core hybrid nature, combining the body of a lion with a human head, and they serve a parallel purpose: to guard sacred space and test the spiritual worthiness of those who seek to enter. They are symbolic gatekeepers between the profane outer world and the enlightened inner sanctum, challenging devotees to leave their ignorance behind before stepping into the presence of the divine. This incredible cross-cultural recurrence of the lion-human hybrid points to a universal human intuition. It seems cultures across vast distances independently arrived at this same powerful image to represent the challenges we must overcome to attain higher knowledge. The Sphinx, in all its forms, stands at the boundary between the known and the unknown, the physical and the intellectual, the mortal and the divine. It is the ultimate test, and its silent question is always the same. Are you brave enough to seek the answer and wise enough to understand it? the enduring allure of the Sphinx, from the sands of Giza to the pages of modern fantasy novels, lies in this perfect embodiment of enigmatic challenge. It does not represent a mystery that is meant to remain forever unsolved, but one that actively invites us to engage with it. Its hybrid form is a permanent reminder that our greatest strength as a species lies in the integration of our animal resilience and our human intellect. We are both the powerful lion and the thinking king. We possess both the strength to endure and the wisdom to comprehend. The Sphinx's gaze, whether carved from desert limestone or sprung from mythological verse, is a timeless call to curiosity and courage. It dares us to confront the puzzles of our own existence, to seek answers to the questions that have perplexed humanity since the dawn of time, and to understand that the journey toward knowledge, though often daunting, is the very path that leads to liberation. And so our journey through these 45 extraordinary symbols comes to a close, yet in many ways the real exploration is only just beginning. What we have uncovered together is far more than a simple list of ancient images. We have traced the contours of a shared human consciousness, a collective dream etched into stone, woven into cloth, and carried across millennia. From the ouroboros swallowing its tail to the watchful gaze of the moe, these symbols form a silent, global language, one that speaks to the most profound questions that have always haunted and inspired us. They ask us where we come from, why we are here, and what may await us beyond the horizon of this life. They are humanity's first attempts to answer the unanswerable, to find patterns in the chaos, and to create meaning in a vast and often bewildering universe. This shared symbolic vocabulary reveals a breathtaking truth. Beneath the surface-level differences of culture, language, and creed, we are all participants in the same great human project. A farmer in ancient China gazing at a Yin-Yang symbol and a philosopher in ancient Greece contemplating the Caduceus were, in essence, grappling with the same fundamental forces of duality and balance. A Norse warrior hoping for Odin's favor through the Valknut and an Egyptian priestess shaking her sistrum for Hathor were both seeking connection with a power greater than themselves. These symbols show us that our divisions are often illusions, and our common ground is vast and deeply rooted. They are a testament to the fact that wonder, fear, hope, and the desire for understanding are universal human traits, transcending every border ever drawn on a map. This is an invitation, then, to see the world with new eyes. The next time you absent-mindedly tap a heart emoji, notice the spiral of a seashell, or even pass by a corporate logo that subconsciously uses a sun wheel or a meander pattern, pause for just a moment. Consider the incredible, ancient journey that simple shape has taken to arrive on your screen or in your hand. Each one is a vessel carrying the hopes, fears, and wisdom of countless generations. They are not relics of a dead past but living artifacts, constantly being reinvented and recharged with new meaning for every generation that discovers them. By understanding their stories, we do more than learn history. We enrich our present, adding layers of depth and connection to our modern lives. We truly hope this voyage has sparked your curiosity and perhaps even inspired you to look up the stories behind a symbol that caught your eye. The conversation doesn't have to end here. We would be absolutely fascinated to know which of these 45 symbols resonated most deeply with you. Was it the protective power of the Hamsa, the transformative promise of the Phoenix, the serene balance of the Lotus? Share your thoughts and personal connections in the comments below. Let's continue this exploration together as a community of curious minds. And if you enjoyed this journey into history's mysteries, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. We have so many more incredible stories to uncover, from lost civilizations to forgotten artifacts, and we would be thrilled to have you along for the next adventure. Thank you for watching, and never stop seeking the hidden connections that we